might be live. Good Lord, we might be live. Me checking my hair. Hello, everybody. You guys are getting the behind-the-scenes look. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, as I like to say. We are happy having all sorts of people here on this channel. My name is Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. It's been a hot minute, folks. I've been Christmasing, I've been New Year'sing, and I've been having lots of fun. Hanging with folks, hanging with friends, coming back to the ground, coming back to normal, as they say. Getting me back to normal. And I'm very glad to be here with you guys hanging out on another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today, of course, as we so often like to do, we will be doing a live stream, doing your readings of your chart live. Yes, that's correct. I like to do this with my channel whenever I can. As this is where I do my thing. I meet my folks and I do my thing that I do, and I like to do it live. It's nice to be able to share something like this on YouTube. It's nice to be able to share a thing that you do. I don't know how many YouTubers get a chance to do this kind of thing. I mean, of course, I see streamers all the time who are engaging with their audience. Maybe one day I'll be a Twitch streamer. I'll come on here and I'll just chat and I'll see how big I can get. But it's nice for me as an astrologer to be able to have a reason to come on here. So thanks for everybody for supporting me and for being a part of this. We will be doing our Tropical Vedic Big 3 today, and also just general readings as well. Anybody who's here and is hanging out live with us, you will be able to get your chart read. And of course, if you know what this is all about, we usually do something that's called a cold reading. Now, a cold reading, what it is I take your chart, you give me your birth information live, I put it into my Kala software, my computer, and we study your chart. And of course, astrology can be a very private thing. I usually try to speak to things that are worth speaking to and talking to. Hello there, my friends KJ Dem and Izzy. Now, Izzy's asked how much. This is a donation basis, and I'm going to be putting my PayPal into the chat. And I see your question there, KJ, so I'm gonna answer you in just a moment as well. So for those who are interested, if you are wanting to do a reading, right now it's donation basis. If you put in $5 and nobody puts in any other money, then you will get the first reading. So you can do that through my PayPal link here, or you can just put it right onto the YouTube as a sticker or one of those fancy, donations through YouTube if you like. And if you put in $5 and no one else does, then you get the first reading. But this, of course, whoever puts in the highest amount is going to get the reading. The next highest amount will get the next reading. We're going to try to do at least 3 today. Generally, I usually keep them between 30 and 40 minutes each. And the intention is to go deep. But of course, as I like to say, only as deep as the reader wants me to go. Hello there, Kjo Dem. Coco! I am glad to see you here. Now, feel free to ask a question if you like. Any questions? We could, it might even be nice for me to answer questions while we gather some more viewers, while we gather some people to be watching on the live stream. So feel free to ask any questions that you like along the way. Hello there, Amma Krellin. Yes, I am Robert Plant, reincarnated. That is right. And who knew that Robert Plant would be here in 2026 doing astrology? He seems like the type. Seems into that mystical kind of occultish kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if he knows a thing or two about it. Of course, Jimmy Page was really he was the true astrology guy. I've been told I look like both, but I've got Robert Plant's curly hair, obviously. So, everybody, feel free to ask any questions that you like along the way. And yes, today we're going to be, I've been doing these big 3 videos, and I'm going to squeeze it out for all I can so everybody can see what a big deal it is, because I've been conveying it as such. And we'll explain what the Tropical Big 3 are in just a moment. First, let's see what our questions are all about. The Stellarium app. A new friend has a different perspective on estimating planets where he calculates it through the Stellarium app. I've actually used the Stellarium app. I've even used it on my channel. It's quite a bit of fun, actually. It's really great. And it gives completely different planetary positions and signs. I wonder, when I use Stellarium, yeah, okay, so what's probably going on there, KJDem, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on there. We could even bust out Stellarium, but we're too early in the stream to do that just yet. But when you use Stellarium, KJDem, there's different options you can use to get different measurements of the signs. What you would want to do when you're on Stellarium is there's options that you can go to in the options panel where you can choose. Unfortunately, I don't have Cash App, Izzy. Maybe I should, though. I hear Cash App all the time, but I've never considered that I should do it for these lives to make it available for people who have Cash App. So thank you, Izzy. I'm going to try and make Cash App available for myself so I could do donations that way. And I appreciate that statement. I've been missing out. So KJDem, there's a difference between what we call sidereal and tropical measurements. I am a tropical astrologer, and I'm sure you must be as well. Usually when you look up on AstroTheme, you look up a person's chart, you're going to find tropical Western-based measurements, right? They're not technically Western, but that's what we're used to in the West. Now, the constellations in the sky have changed. That's okay, Izzy. I see that your PayPal isn't working. That's why I've got to get Cash App. So, Izzy, next time I'm on here, I'm sure that I'll have Cash App ready for someone like you, and I appreciate the prompt. But to answer KJDem, the signs have shifted over 2,000 years. When you're on Stellarium and you see the constellations, you're looking at the sidereal constellations. If you've ever heard of doing your sidereal chart, you'll see, for example, that you might have the sun in Scorpio, but when you look in Stellarium, it looks like it's in the constellation of Libra, for example. It's one sign behind. It's 23 degrees behind. That's what we call sidereal. That's the original constellations, which is a whole debate in today's time. If you want to know more about that, I have a video on my channel describing the difference between sidereal and tropical astrology. Right. So, KJDem, my advice to your friend is to look for ways of projecting the tropical donations onto the donations. I'm looking at the chat. There's an option on Stellarium where you can choose to put the tropical circle of the tropical zodiac, and you'll notice the tropical, it's a circle that's got little etches for the degrees, and it's a circle that goes around your Stellarium view. That's how you would find the constellations as being different from the tropical measurements. The tropical measurements is what we use here, tropical measurements. Do you prefer PayPal, Super Chat? I prefer PayPal, to be honest with you. That's usually how I will go about doing this. Now, Renate Prazak, you've mentioned that you've given a donation. Oh, looks like I got it. Beautiful. So we have one donation so far, everybody. Some people don't prefer that I put the name, but I'm going to need to see the name in order to know who did this donation. So our first donation is by somebody named Trinity Butterfield, and we have $13 so far, has been our highest donation. Yes, we've just started, Stanislav. And like I said, you could do PayPal or you can do the Super Chat. for your donation today. And whoever has the highest bid in the moment, no problem, KJ. I'm glad I got that. Okay, sweet. So it looks like our friend Renate so far has donated $13. So that is our highest bid at the moment. Okay, so I'll call you Renate then. Thank you, Renate. I appreciate the donation very much. And Stanislav, my friend, yes, we haven't chosen our first reading yet. Right now, I'm going to let some people pile in. I'm going to let some people make their donation. Now, here's how it works, folks. Renate has already given me a $13 donation. Now, if somebody goes over that donation, if somebody donates $15, if somebody donates $20, that person will get the first reading today. And then if nobody else donates, then Renate will get the second reading because she has the second highest bid, right? We're kind of doing this as this sort of donation basis type of situation. It's the people who will donate these amounts who are going to get the readings for today. And so far, Renate, if you hang out for just, we'll give folks a little bit. I'd like to hang out for a minute, let people catch up onto the stream, and see who else wants to join and be a part of this. But at the moment, Renate has the biggest donation. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to everybody for being here. Like I said, if you are interested in donating, then you are in the right place. Now, our friend Stanislav has just donated $15. This is how this is going to work for the moment, everybody. Stanislav has the first donation right now at $15. And now Renate has got $13, so Renate will be second. Thank you, Stanislav. And thank you to everybody for being here. So far, we have got our $15 donation as our highest donation so far. That's from Stanislav. And of course, when we do this, folks, yes, we are going to be focusing for today on our Tropical Vedic Big 3. But if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm going to dig into your chart. We're going to look at a little bit of everything. Excuse me. When we do these readings, I'm going to take your chart and I'm going to put it into my Kala software. If anybody's ever seen Kala, it looks a little bit like this. Let's just do a chart of the moment. Let's see where I presently am at this time, at this point in space and time. We have Pisces rising at 20 degrees right now. It's interesting that we've got Rahu, Saturn, and Neptune right in the rising sign of the current time. So, but ultimately, this is what the chart will look like. And of course, it's Tropical Vedic Astrology, which means we're using Western measurements that you might be used to. Stanislav, my friend, when the moment comes, we'll do it. We'll go on about, like I said, we're gonna go. Maybe we should aim for like 10:30, or maybe we should just jump right in. We'll see what's going on. But in probably about 10-15 minutes at the most, Stanislav, I'll be asking for your birth details. So the birth details that I'm looking for is your birth time. You can even put it now if you want, Stanislav. Renate, you can put yours as well, but ultimately, it's looking like we're going to do Renate's second so far. And so when we do our second chart, that's when I'll be asking for Renate's birth time. So at the moment, there's Stanislav. Perfect. All right, Stanislav. So I have your birth information at the moment. We're going to give this a little bit of time, let more people pile in, and then I will be doing Stanislav's chart first, unless anybody else donates more. Currently, we're at $15, folks. $15 is the current bid. This is a bidding. This works by bidding, folks. So Stanislav has bid $15. And when we do these readings today, we're going to be looking at the Tropical Vedic Big 3. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of the Big 3 before. In Western astrology, it's the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. those are important, although, I mean, the rising sign especially is going to set up your whole chart. They are important, but in Vedic astrology, these three figures are really conveyed as the deep soul figures, the figures of the soul. We have the Atma Karaka, which is the planet with the highest degrees in the person's chart. We have the Swamsha, which is the place where the Atma Karaka goes in the Navamsha chart. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go on. The Navamsha chart is kind of like the soul chart. It's sort of like how we can convey it. And so where the Atma Karaka goes, the Atma Karaka is a signifier of the soul. You put the Atma Karaka into the Navamsha, you're going to see a very deep, nuanced perspective on the soul. And then as well, we have the moon's nakshatra. The nakshatra is the Vedic 27 sidereal constellations. And the sidereal nakshatras is another very deep, key Vedic idea that I'm hoping you all find is a very, very nuanced, very subtle, very deep perspective and dimension of the energy of a person. As time goes on, I'm hoping that people see through my channel, through the works of myself and other tropical Vedic astrologers like me, how much the moon's nakshatra very much strongly relates to a person's chart. So, thank you very much to all of our viewers so far. It looks like at the moment, at the moment we've got a few viewers, and I don't want to spend too much time waiting for people because we've already got some folks, we've already got some donations. So, Stanislav, my friend, if you are still here with us, you've got the $15 bid for the moment. We'll start with Stanislav. We'll start in about 2 minutes. So Stanislav, if you're here, if you're hanging out, I know I said it'd take a little longer, but this is how I sometimes work on my channel. Hello there, Estas. Nice to see you. We have our first bidder at $15. And if nobody else jumps in and throws in anything else, we're going to go with our first bidder, which is Stanislav. So 20 minutes after the hour is when we're going to begin our first reading for the day. And I do thank you all for being a part of this. Your donations, folks, are going to help me live and to continue doing what I do, which is to practice astrology, to eat food so that I'm not a starving artist, and to keep on doing what I do and hanging out with you guys and producing these artistic videos about the occult science of Tropical Vedic Astrology. I love what I do. I'm very blessed, and I'm very glad to be able to share it with everybody. Like I said, it's a special thing when you can engage with your audience in this way. So, Stanislav, my friend, are you here with us? I mean, truth be told, even if Stanislav is not present, I'm still going to do this thing for Stanislav because Stanislav has given the highest donation. I'm hoping that Stanislav, yes, you are here. It's always nicer when I'm live with the person, because then we can kind of go, Stanislav, feel free to make any comments that you'd like along the way. Feel free to ask any questions as I'm reading your chart. Ultimately, I'm here for you. As much as I love the sound of my own voice, we are going to be putting you in the power seat today, Stanislav, my friend. So, Stanislav, you've already donated, and I appreciate you deeply for it. Let's get going here, folks. Let's begin our first reading of the day. We have somebody born in the year 2000, which would be the year of the metal dragon. Yes, that's correct. So let's begin, everybody. And I thank you all for hanging out with us live. I should say this first. Stanislav, my friend, in case you've never been on my channel before, keep in mind when we're doing astrology, this is the type of when you're doing live astrology like this, perfect. All right, Stanislav. When you're doing astrology live like this, the ideal is to, I don't want to knock around the skeletons in anybody's closet here, but we can go deep. So if I say anything, this is how I like to operate. I like to go deep. I've got lots of Scorpio in my chart. I've got Sun, Mars, and Pluto in Scorpio. So I do like to go deep. But if I ever say anything that you don't want to talk about, you could always just type and be like, yeah, don't go there. I'll be like, okay, it hasn't happened yet, but we don't need to talk anything that you don't want to talk about. It's always worth mentioning. Again, you are in the power seat here, my friend. So without further ado, let's begin our first reading today. Our friend Stanislav is going to get our first donation-based reading. Now, let's see. Stanislav, you are born 2000. Let me just check that I got this. 6 would be June 22nd, 2000. Do we have the time? 1909. Nice exact birth time. I always love to see that. So that's 7:09 p.m. Stanislav, it's good for me to ask these days. I'm pretty sure that Stanislav, I would consider that to be let me know if you would identify as a male or a female. As well, we've just gotten another donation at $13 as well. So we have somebody named Francesca who has joined in with the donations. I thank you very much, Francesca. So Stanislav is still our person who has given $15, so we're going to start there. Let me see. Stanislav is going to be in Russia from Moscow. Yeah, I'd say that's probably about right. Now, here is Stanislav's chart. Now, Stanislav, my friend, it looks to me like you are almost sort of close to the Scorpio-Sagittarius cusp, but it looks like you got a pretty solid birth time. That's 1909. So you're probably a Scorpio rising. Now, Stanislav, if you are looking at this, let me know if you're used to using, for example, a Sagittarius rising. Because if you're a Sagittarius rising, that means that this cusp is a little bit dirty or mucky, as I like to say. We've got a questionable sort of on the cusp birth time. If not, though, you might be used to using a Scorpio rising. So let me know if that is familiar to you, if Scorpio rising is what you're used to using. And of course, our friend Stanislav is a male. And so that's going to give us a bit more clarity on what we're doing with this reading for Stanislav. It's always nice when you know has always been Scorpio. Excellent. Okay, Stanislav, congratulations. You're our first reading for the day. And it's nice when we have an exact birth time. We have the exact rising sign, because now we know that we are dealing with the correct person with the correct birth time. So it's 10:25. Let's say I'm going to put our time. Now, I've been working with a timer lately. I'm going to put it on 30 minutes. Usually I go for 30 minutes. If I often will round things up at the very end. Oh, so that's Izzy, a.k.a. Francesca. Francesca, I did get your PayPal. I did get your donation, and so I thank you deeply. On our next round, we're going to have Francesca and Renate. We're gonna have to do something like picking a number or something like that, because you guys gave the same amount of money donated. We will work on that once we are there. Fran. Cool, Fran. Fran works. So thank you, Fran, for donating, and for everybody who's hanging out and watching. Let's get started. I'm going to put my timer on 30 minutes, starting right now. Bazinga, bada bing, bada boom. Actually, hold on. Let me say this before we do anything here. If anybody's watching this and you would like to also participate, you can donate directly on YouTube, or you can send me a PayPal donation. I prefer PayPal, but whatever works for you. You can do YouTube as well. And eventually I'm going to get Cash App on the insistence of my friend Fran. And I do thank you for that, Fran. All right, enough teasing. Stanislav has been patient, everybody. We have 30 minutes for our first reading of the day. And let's rock and roll. Let's get started. Yeah, boom. We have our first reading of the day. And this is our friend Stanislav. Now, I can see your comments, so if anybody wants to ask any questions, if Stanislav wants to ask any questions or mention anything along the way, please do feel free to. So, Stanislav, the first thing I always like to do, wow. be good now. Maybe this is going to do it. Can you guys hear me now okay? Let me know if I now have volume, if you could. Now you guys can hear me okay? Yeah, check 1, 2. Now you guys can hear me okay? Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah. Sounds like we're there. You know what it was is that, like, I think my cable and my microphone was kind of playing with me there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, I'm so sorry for that rude disruption of my technology. It looks like we're now all together. Hopefully we didn't lose too many people there. Hello, Sandra. Hello, Itzel. Hello, Brooklyn Young. And let's see, I think someone else also joined. It's a pleasure to see you all. It's a pleasure to be hanging out with you guys live. Thank you very much for your patience. And thank you to Stanislav. Stanislav has been our first donated, highest donation bidder for this session today. Very nice to see you, Itzel, my dear. And thank you for joining us in our membership. Our membership is a part of my channel. And we occasionally do channel membership videos if anyone's interested in becoming a member, which also supports me. For now, everybody, let's get back to where we were here. It's 35 minutes after the hour. We're going to start again with our friend Stanislav. We're going to give him another extra moment. Let's begin now going through Stanislav's chart. Thank you, everybody, for your patience while I had to figure out my audio technology. Story of my life. That was freaking me out for a hot minute there. Everything happens for a reason. Stanislav, you got an extra 2 minutes out of it. Okay, so let me know. We are live here, folks. If you got questions, if you got comments. Remember, if you look up at the space of the chat, you can throw in your own donations as well. It's echoing. Okay. How about now? Are we still echoing? But this echo now. All right, so how does it sound now, folks? System sound, stream only, audio input. Okay. Story of my life. Check 1, 2. We are checking for echo. It looks like we're okay now. And hopefully there's not too much of this echo happening. Worst case scene, if any echo does happen, it looks like we're better. Thanks, team. Thank you, ground control. I have a great team here with me, everybody, and I'm so glad you're all here pulling me together. Story of my life, eh? A Leo rising is nothing without his team, everybody. All right, so we're good for echo, it seems, for the moment. E.T. is so desperately trying to phone home. Let's roll now. It looks like we're good. If we get echo, just let me know. Worst case scene, I don't think the echo is the worst thing in the world. I've heard that echo, it can be annoying, but looks like we got it. I'm now going to roll my shoulders back and focus on what I'm supposed to be doing right now. let's dig into it, everybody. This is our friend Stanislav's chart. And if anybody would like to have comments, if you'd like to donate along the way, remember this is a donation basis reading. so you can join in and be a part of this at any time. Once again, Stanislav, my friend, I have not started. Now we're going to officially start. This is our first reading of the day. One of 3, possibly more, depending on how things go. Stanislav, your time has started. The echo is back. Why? All right. Check 1, 2. How's the echo now? When I share desktop. Check 1, 2. So this is what's causing the echo here. Okay, team, let me know. Can you guys hear me okay? No volume. So now this would be the volume. Check 1, 2. I'm wondering if when I go here, so that's going to have that echo. I wonder if I kill that. How about now, everybody? Do we have an echo happening here with this, with the sharing of the screen whenever we do desktop? Let's see if we can. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So can you guys hear the echo here when I'm on the desk, when I'm sharing everything? Looks like it's perfect. Okay, good. Whoo! Hare Krishna! Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Technology. Once again, God bless you, Stanislav. Are we good here? Everything seems fine. Thank you again, team. All right, folks, let's get Stanislav going here. We've officially started on our 30-minute mark, and I appreciate you all for your patience. I got to work out the technology happening here, but for now, it looks like we're good. So, everybody, this is our first chart reading of the day. We have Scorpio rising, and as I was saying before, we had a technology burp. We have a stellium, a crazy stellium happening here in the sign of Cancer. We have Rahu, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the Sun all squashed together in the sign of Cancer. And of course, at this particular place, Stan. Gotcha, Stan. I'll call you Stan. We have somebody who has a monstrous stellium going on here in the sign of Cancer. And there's lots to be said there. You know, as we all ought to know, some very important things happen when any planets are close to, let alone in, the sign of Rahu. In this case, we have the year of the dragon, where Rahu and Ketu were in the axis of Capricorn and Cancer. So, I thank you, everybody. Now, Stan, my friend, let's begin by first going into the Tropical Vedic Big 3 before we start. This is something I've been doing on my channel. I like to dig into the Tropical Vedic Big 3 so everyone can see what it is and what its importance is. We start off with the Atmakarika. It's the planet with the highest degrees in the chart, not including Rahu, Ketu, or Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. The planet with the highest degrees in the chart is going to say a lot about a person right off the bat. We want to look for anything that's going on in the signs ruled by the Atmakarika and what's going on with the Atmakarika in general. In this case, our friend Stan here is Jupiter Atmakarika. So, this is a Jupiter, which we can see. It's in the 7th house. It's conjunct Saturn, which means it's going to be starved. And it has a little bit of toughness being in the 7th house. Jupiter actually likes to be closer to the 1st house. Still a pretty happy and strong Jupiter, though. I'm happy to say. Oh, we've actually got a little bit of planetary war between Venus and Mars, but that's not too bad. It's going to be good for Venus. Jupiter is our 2nd highest Shadbala in this chart. So here we have a Jupiter Atmakarika. So let's begin by just talking a little bit about Jupiter Atmakarika. This is somebody, especially depending on the rising sign and what Jupiter rules. Jupiter here is the Atmakarka. This is going to be somebody who is probably expresses as someone like a teacher. I often tell people I'm Venus Atmakarka. So I'm interested in psychology. I'm interested in sexuality. I'm interested in Tantra. I'm interested in childhood psychology and the psyche of what happened in a person's childhood that would reflect on their current capacity in relationship. It's partly because I'm the same Swamsha as you, by the way. Yes, Stan, you have the same Swamsha as me. I get a lot of people running through my channel who are Virgo Swamsha. And that's what we're going to talk about in a moment. Jupiter Atmakarka is a teacher, a philosopher, somebody who loves to do things. If you ever known anybody who's got a lot of Sagittarius or Pisces energy, they explain things and they're like, let's just do it. It looks like this. A Jupiter person, when they want to go teach somebody how to swim, they're not going to really break out a book and tell you about the history of swimming. They're just going to dunk you in the water. Okay, feel your arms, feel your legs. You know, what's going on? How we swimming? This is Jupiter energy. It likes to really just go and rock and roll and do things in this way. Now, there's a lot to quantify this Jupiter. It's in the 7th house, which is a little bit tricky for Jupiter. In the 7th house, Jupiter can get a little bit bogged down in relationships, in marriage. Jupiter does best when it is speaking from its own experience. And Jupiter does best when it bases its teaching on itself, on its own experience. So when Jupiter is in the 7th house, this is a person who does well in partnerships. Of course, wherever Jupiter is, it's going to add some juice, some goodness, some benefic energy. Here, this Jupiter is in the 7th house. It's conjunct Saturn. And it's going to be a little bit harmed by being in the sign of Taurus. Taurus tends to starve Jupiter because Jupiter has Venus for an enemy. So we see in what's called the Lajatadya Vashtas that Jupiter is starved essentially by Venus as well as by Saturn. Already, right away, we could probably say a lot about what a person could be experiencing by having Jupiter being starved by Venus and Saturn, especially by Saturn. You know, every planet you can kind of peek a little bit into its nature and see what you might be expecting from a planet that is sort of harmed or starved in this way. So Jupiter, we can deal right away with what Jupiter is all about in an astrology chart. I often like to read from my books, my texts. This is The Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2 by Ryan Kirksack and Ryan Kirksack's teacher. Jupiter deals with behaviors, philosophy, religion, wealth, and children, or that which we creatively produce in the world. So when Jupiter has some kind of Lajatadya Vashta happening, they might give reasons to feel bad or sensitive about the areas of behaviors, philosophy, religion, wealth, and children. As a Jupiter person, these themes would be important to you. Religion, philosophy. You know, when we have Jupiter in the 7th house like this, you might find, especially because of the way it's positioned, that sharing a philosophy with your partner, you know, what is the overall philosophy that you apply with your partners? What is your religion? If you have a religion, you might find that getting a solid sense of a religion is a picky, delicate issue for you with a Jupiter like this. In fact, with Saturn starving Jupiter, it's in the 7th house. The house in which Jupiter is starved by Saturn shows the area of life where the person has difficulty having faith and finding purpose. It shows a lack of hope. This house can rob a person of joy in that area of life. It's that area of life, as indicated by the house, that a person needs to develop inwardly, which is, again, partly why this is so tough. Jupiter likes to be closer to the 1st house. So when we have a Jupiter in the 7th house, this is a Jupiter who's trying to develop inwardly through the 7th house. You might find, Stan, that you have a desire, a feeling, an importance of bringing things together through the 7th house in relationship with others. You might even feel like you can't gain your fullest strength in life, your fullest development of wisdom and self-reflection, until you apply yourself in relationship with other people. This is partnership, this is business partnerships, and this is relationship in general. You might have even found Taurus, of course, relates with Venus. So the age of puberty might have been a time from age 12 up to age 32. That's the age of puberty. Of not just puberty, but becoming a man and working through what I am as a man in reflection with the opposite gender or with whatever is your thing that you like to do. Of course, I'm an ally of the LGBTQ plus community. So anybody who is working through gender stuff, it's kind of a welcome to my world because I work through a lot of that myself. This theme of Jupiter being somewhat working through Venus. Here we have Venus, relationships. There's a hunger to have relationships. And when you have such a deep hunger to merge in relationship with somebody else, it can have a way of undermining your own set religion, your own set philosophy in life. This is worth mentioning. This tells us how Jupiter is usually supposed to work. 11D8, this is a donation basis for everybody. This isn't just channel members. So if anybody wants to donate, you can feel free to donate to my PayPal. So far, the next person who's donated has donated $13. So you could donate 13 and get in the queue with them, or you can donate higher and you'll have a chance to get the next reading. Jupiter is something that we men, really Jupiter is important for men and women in relationships. I've often said Jupiter is the true love symbol because we want to be loved for something that's deeply intrinsic to us. It's our philosophy. It's what we want to do. It's Jupiter, as well as the 9th house, we will often say, what do you want to be when you grow up? If you ask somebody, what do you want to be when you grow up? They might say, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a missionary. I want to go work for the army. These are all representing a certain philosophy of life. Now, the 10th house is going to show what they ultimately do as their occupation. But the 9th house in Jupiter shows the deeper soul answer to the question, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a protector, a provider? Do you want to be somebody who starts a family and this sort of thing? What's probably going to be an important issue for our friend here as time goes on is when you do end up in a relationship with another person, you'll probably find that Saturn causes you to do two things in Taurus in the 7th house with Jupiter there. This is somebody who is going to latch their own, because Stan might be a little bit fickle when it comes to my religion, my family's religion. Well, how has my father taught me to live my life? What's the example my father gave me of a good man, of a protector, a provider? Your father might have given you an example which you might be a little bit testy about. You might not think that your father's example of the way that a man is supposed to live his life is something that you feel entirely secure and confident in yourself. You might feel like, I don't want to be that. I want to be something else. Saturn is going to do two things for Jupiter here. It's going to cause you, number one, to latch yourself into the religion and philosophy and faith of a partner. And number two, it's going to make you also not fully take wholesale the partner's religion. And this is going to be a confounding thing. Do I completely let go of my idea of, this is somebody who ultimately ends up never fully feeling confident and secure of their own philosophy and religion in a relationship. Ironically, relationships are going to be the place where you're dragged through this possible shame, this starvation, this feeling like I didn't get enough. I didn't get enough of a good example of what a good partner is, of what a man is, of what I'm supposed to be as a man in relationship. So this Jupiter, let's talk a little bit now about the Swamsha. The Swamsha is this is a Vedic technique, everybody. Remember, I've been doing these Tropical Vedic Big Three. When Jupiter is at the end of an Earth sign, it's at 28 degrees of an Earth sign, in that case Taurus, we can see down here, if you know how to read the Vedic chart, that Jupiter is in the bottom right corner of the Navamsha chart. That's the space of Virgo. So this is a person who is Jupiter Atmakaraka in Virgo Swamsha. Virgo is also a place where Jupiter can have a little bit of difficulty. There's a scatteredness. You might be actually somebody who researches and reads a lot about spirituality. And you might be somebody who is always changing your idea of, again, who do I want to be when I grow up? What's my set path? You could be a businessman for a long time, and you could enjoy that. You could get fully enamored by being a business person, being an entrepreneur, and you play with that for a while. And then eventually you see other people who are happy in relationship. You see a wife and a husband, and they got kids, and you begin to think, I've wasted my time being a business person. I've spent so much energy there because I never had a right philosophy. Now I want to go and be a family man. So then you might go and try and find a partner. And it's hard for you to be happy in your business. You go and latch onto a partner, you find a wife or somebody who could be your wife, you go out with them for a while, and you enjoy the novelty of it. This is the tricky thing with Virgo Swamsha in general, but especially with Jupiter Atmakaraka falling into Virgo Swamsha. Virgo has a way of always internally changing things. That's why they say Virgo's nitpicky. Virgo is always internally shifting. This is why there's a scattering that happens. There's always something that they enjoy new, fresh. They always want to chase the new, fresh thing. Jupiter in Virgo, Swamsha, is always going to be thinking of some new, novel, different change in what they want to do in their lives and who they are, who they want to be, what defines my happiness, what defines my purpose in life. You'll research it. You might be a nerdy type guy like me. I'm also Virgo Swamsha. You might research a lot about what you want to do with your life and what happiness you seek to find. And Jupiter prefers to just have one, make it solid, and roll with it. So this is what we can kind of expect from a chart like this. Next, let's look at the moon in its nakshatra. Here we have the moon in Shatabhishak. The moon is going to be very important in this chart because of all this stuff happening in Cancer. Now, when we have the moon in Pisces in the 5th house, of course, it's worth us noting that we have Jupiter Atmakaraka, and we have lots of stuff happening in Jupiter's signs. And this is very relevant to this person. For this is a person who has Pluto and Chiron and Sagittarius in the 2nd house. So 2nd house themes are going to be relevant to our friend Stan. And so are 5th house themes, because Pisces is the natural 5th house ruler of Scorpio. The moon is falling into the sign of Pisces, and it's there in Shatabhishak. So this would also be something worth moving through and discussing. Shatabhishak is a interesting place. There's sort of a judge presiding over the sign of Shatabhishak. Remember, this is our third, the moon's nakshatra. And this is a very important part of Vedic astrology. Shatabhishak is somebody who's going to operate themselves in a certain way. So let's just take a quick peek here. Shatabhishak Really, this is actually going to be the next sign that I do on my channel that I teach. We read that the master of myriad combinations needs all of space for all the earth. This is a master who creates prosperous, tangible realities and objects by taking intangible things and combining them together hundreds of times. Thus, the universe creates Earth from space. So Shatabishak is really an idea person. This is somebody who has lots of ideas of what they want to do, of who they want to be, what they want to create. This plays in with the Virgo Swamsha of being a little bit scattered in what you want to do in your life. This is somebody who is well suited for excellence in leadership. Right? Remember, we're talking about the moon in Shatabishak down here in Pisces. The moon's nakshatra in Shatabishak shows that this is somebody who's well suited for excellence in leadership, but it can be a little bit poorly suited for humble subordination. Somebody who needs wide open space. So this is a person who easily feels confined. And that's why Shatabishak often goes outside of conventional boundaries, limits, and rules. It deals with combining and joining multiple things, and it has passionate sexual potential. The moon here is going to bring this out. When the Shatabishak person is given practical, intellectual, and creative space and freedom, Shatabishak excels tremendously in its ability to combine diverse ideas, concepts, and topics, and talents to find very abstract, subtle concepts and put them into tangible, concrete form. What's tricky about this is Shatabishak, especially with the moon in the 5th house. This is obviously a very creative person. So, Stan, you are somebody who has a moon in the 5th house. There's a pure-heartedness that comes from the moon in the 5th house. There's a profound and beautiful creativity. At least this is the ideal here. The moon should find that it has a genius intelligence in combining many things to come together to one thing. The cool thing about it is that you probably are somebody who researches a lot about the things that you're interested in. And you might find that you are somebody who is able to consistently, brilliantly find all sorts of different things and combine them together creatively. This, however, does add in to the theme that we see of the scatterment in this chart. Really, you are somebody who needs to exercise your ability to be solid and to find one path that fits what you're doing, that fits what you are trying to be, who you're trying to become. And this might take an emphasis of guru energy. You might be somebody who needs to use Jupiter. Jupiter means guru, and guru is something inside of all of us. Guru manifests as, for example, a father figure, as well as teachers. The guru inside of all of us is a dense, it means dense. It means something that we follow because we know it's who we are and it's what is good for us, and it's a solid thing. You might do well to learn from a teacher about one specific thing in your life. This is why Jupiter can be the planet that relates to high education. This is somebody who goes to school, learns about a specific, thing, gets a higher education related to some particular thing, and follows that thing through. Now, you would definitely want to take some time and work on yourself. Whatever job you have right now, whatever gig you have right now, it's important for you to learn to find happiness and peace within yourself. This could take a long time. You might not find yourself being solid in what you want to do with your life, until after you've gone through the Venus period. The Venus period operates from age 12 to age 32. You being born in the year 2000, you're probably about 25, 26 years old right now. So you're still in the Venus period. You're still working out some necessary karma related to relationships. It's a good thing for you to recognize. It's good to open your heart and be present with relationships. Be present with the opposite sex. Be present with women. Particularly because you've got a lot of earth and a lot of water. The wisdom of woman is going to be a very important way for you to uncover for yourself what it is to be a man and what you as a man are seeking to do for women in your life. And, this is true of anybody, whatever their sort of sexual orientation is. Even people who are in any regard with women have a wisdom. They are the earth and water. They bring us down to earth. The feminine psyche has to do not with what we do, but with what we are and what we have. So, Stan, my friend, I would encourage you to find self-realization ultimately through some kind of meditation. Jupiter is the great teacher of spirituality. It's good for you to get into meditation. Find some time for peace in your life to look within yourself. What's tricky for you is that Venus, ruling the 12th and the 2nd house, the 12th and the 7th house, is very wrapped up in the sign of Cancer. This is an interesting chart, Stan. You've got a lot of things wrapped up in a lot of similar places, especially because the North Node is in the 9th house of Cancer with this crazy stellium going on here, where we have some shame that's worth talking about in this reading. If I had more time, I'd be talking more about that, because this is really the big centrifugal. This is the load-bearing wall in this chart, as we can see. We have Rahu, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the Sun, with Rahu all wrapped up in the sign of Cancer, which is the natural 9th house of Scorpio. The 9th house relates to Jupiter. So this is going to be even more themes related to father, related to guru, related to shame that you might have experienced when you were younger, of being told that your ideas for what you want to do are stupid, and that you might never sense that the world has any solid, grounded truth. You might find that there is no truth. Ultimately, all truth is all subjective and relative, which means why even try to hold solidly onto one thing? Life is going to push you to find out that you're right. All truth is subjective. But the truth that matters is the one that relates to your nature. Everybody has a nature inside them. Everybody has a thing that they do best. Birds find joy by flying in the air. Fish find their joy by swimming in the water. What you don't want to do is be a bird who's trying to prove to everybody that swimming in the water is right for me, when ultimately you should have been a bird. You should be flying, just like your kind. You don't want to be a fish who's trying to flop outside of the water and breathe and say, no, I'm not a fish, I'm not a fish. You are a fish, so swim. Find what that swimming is. And I think Mark Twain once said, if you judge a fish for its ability to climb a tree, it'll feel like a failure for the rest of its life. This is a Jupiter that needs to deal with this theme. And the trickiest thing is that because Jupiter's in the 7th house, with Saturn there, you're going to find partners drag you into the feeling that you have not figured this out yet. This is a very important theme in this chart. And truth be told, I think it's probably not going to be until you start to move towards the age 36, where you're going to finally start to feel like the cosmos is on your side, like you are whether you're a fish or a bird or a lion, whatever you are something. And you're probably not going to start to really figure it out until age 36, when Saturn matures and when your north node really starts to bloom. Before then, because most of your planets are up there with Rahu, you might find that you're a very Ketu and Capricorn person. You're somebody who leans on Saturn. Thankfully, Saturn is actually doing really well in this chart, which, you know, let's at least say, for the sake of this chart, it's really a very profound blessing when you have the lords of Rahu and Ketu are happily situated in the chart. And I'm happy to say in this chart that that is the case. Saturn is happy in the 7th house. It's happy in the sign of Taurus. And it is delighted by Jupiter, because anything that is with Jupiter, Jupiter is going to delight that planet. There's going to be yucky stuff and there's going to be good stuff associated there. But overall, this is a Saturn that eventually, at least it knows, I might not know, I don't know if I'm a fish, I don't know if I'm a bird, I don't know if I'm a lion, I don't know what I am. But I know that if I breathe, I put one foot forward, I keep my eye, I put my head down, I focus on the immediate things in my life in this moment, focus on my responsibilities, focus on my duties, and burn out the karma of Capricorn and Saturn. You have the ability to do this. You are somebody who I can definitely say, I'm very happy to say, you have the ability to move forward, even using others through their suggestions, through their creative input. You will find that relationships, women, push you to at least move forward in your life and do what you have to do. Get your debts figured out. Clean out your debt. You know, especially Saturn ruling the 3rd and 4th house for Scorpio rising. You'll find relationships do at least drag you along and help you to grow. And this is the main thing. You don't have to be perfect right now. You don't have to know what you're supposed to be doing in your life. All that we can do sometimes is let Saturn drag us forward. Life and the cosmos are going to put pressure on you that causes you to bloom like a flower. And this will especially happen around the age of 36. There's our timer there. Dismiss. Be patient with yourself, Stan, because you're still very young. You're 25 years old-ish, and you're in the phase of the Venus period where you're moving through relationships. You're moving through your engagement with the opposite sex, with what women mean to you, with what relationships mean to you. It's probably very painful to experience relationships, especially because there's so much stuff going on up here. At least Mercury and Venus they're delighting each other because Venus and Mercury are friends. But Venus and Mercury are going to be shamed by Mars and the Sun by being with Rahu and Mars and the Sun. When any planet is with a node, in this case Rahu, and whenever this planet is with a node and a malefic, in this case we have 2 malefics here, Mars and the Sun, that planet is going to be shamed. Venus and Mercury are both important planets for you, and they're both experiencing this shame. Which means in the 9th house, it's very possible that you have, for example, some psychological complexes. Remember, we have somebody who is Virgo Swamsha here. So you might find that things happened to you in childhood that stopped you from communicating, Mercury, and having emotional intimacy. That's Venus. That have stopped you from feeling like, I'm a good man. I have things that a woman would enjoy. Not just because you make money and because you're a man, but Venus and Mercury are all about, how do people enjoy me? Because this is part of our relationship as men with women. It's not just that we can bring home the bacon. It's that women find us enjoyable. We listen. We think about what they want in the relationship while still holding true to what we are. So this kind of exploration of childhood, things that might have happened in your childhood, specifically that's Mercury. Mercury is from age 3 to 12. Whatever shame you might have felt in communicating about the joy that you want to have with women and the philosophy you want to have, the religion you want to have, your family through that 9th house, you might be born to a family that doesn't talk about anything, doesn't talk about what, just be a man and go to work and that's that. And if this is the case, the cosmos is encouraging you to know, to respect your mother, respect your father, respect your family, give them the respect they deserve for raising you. But don't let anybody put a ceiling on the spiritual and soul growth potential that you have in this life. We can always move the pieces of the chessboard of fate and destiny. But we have to do it by self-love, faith, that communicating, opening our hearts, talking with others, letting go and transforming and shedding the snake skin of what you thought you always were, particularly with psychological stuff. You might do well going to some kind of counselor or therapist and learning about what other people think. You might think, oh, I could never be like this with a woman. But you can go to a therapist and say, this was my childhood. And the therapist might say, it's actually good for you to be vulnerable. It's good for you to be a man, and there might be things that the therapist can tell you how to realign yourself with what happened in childhood that stops you from being open and reflecting in your relationships and on the person you want to be. That's a good question, Brooklyn. For now, everybody, let's first, Stan, I think we did pretty good here, Stan. Stan, you can always ask me questions at any point. You can email me if you're interested. And if anybody's ever interested in emailing me, you can always email me at astrology@dustincormier.com. Email me there. If you like, I can do a further cold reading for you. You can ask me any questions about anything that I've talked about here, and we can go a little bit deeper and a little bit further in what we've described in your chart. But for now, thank you, Stan, for volunteering your time. Just a little golf clap. Dumbledore clap, yes. Thank you very much, Stan, and congratulations for being our first donator who got a chance to do a reading today. I appreciate you very much. Let me know what you thought of it if you feel like it. Awesome, Stan. I was very happy to do that for you, my friend. There's always good and bad in every chart, ladies and gentlemen. No matter how things are positioned, there's always more to learn about ourselves, and there's always more to wiggle through in order to bring us closer to who we are and what we're supposed to be. Thank you very much, Stan, for being a part of this with us today. Now, for everybody watching, we are now going into our next session. And of course, if anybody is interested in having what we've done here, if you want to donate and to get a reading, right now the bar is at $13 actually. We have 2 people who have donated $13 so far. If anybody donates more than that, then they will get the next reading, right? So for all those who are watching live, feel free to jump in and make a donation. And this will give you a chance to have your chart read. Okay, good. So we still have 13 people watching. And all of you who are watching live, now is your chance. You can either donate through YouTube directly, or you can donate by going to my PayPal up here. Eventually, I'm going to get Cash App on here. Maybe I should also do Venmo. Cash App and Venmo. I know that these are things that people use. But so far, we have Fran and Renate who have donated $13. So if anybody wants to go above that, you will have a chance to have your chart read today. Let's take a quick bathroom break here, folks. To answer Brooklyn's question, Brooklyn asked, how do you check in which sign that the Swamsha settles? What I would refer you to, because it is it's a lot to describe, Brooklyn. So what I'm going to quickly do here is I'm going to go on my channel, Now, if anybody's ever interested in how to find your swamsha, what I recommend you do is you go into my videos on my channel, and you're going to find what is the Navamsha, and that is going to describe how essentially to take any planet and see what it's like in the swamsha, in the Navamsha, that is. What you do is you take your Atmakaraka, it's the planet with the highest degrees in your chart, find its place in the Navamsha chart, and that will be the sign of the swamsha. It's a very deep, intricate aspect of Vedic astrology, and you'll find, if I do this Tropical Vedic Big 3 reading for you, you'll find it relates very deeply to who you are and what you're all about. And again, you can find the position of any planet in the Navamsha, including your Atmakaraka, by going to my video, What is Navamsha? As well, I also have another video entitled How Do We Calculate the Swamsha? That's about 25 minutes long. I also have another video called Interpreting the Swamsha. And in these two videos, you'll get an even deeper sense of what this swamsha is all about. Now, everybody, let's do a quick bathroom break. Again, if anybody wants to donate, you can donate here to PayPal, or you can donate to YouTube directly, and you will get a chance at a reading. For now, we have 2 people who have donated $13. If you donate more than $13, then you will get the next reading. Let's do a quick bathroom break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue and do our next reading. So I'll see you guys in just 1 minute. See you in a moment. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, everybody. I thank you all for your patience. When you gotta go, you know? I've been drinking these smoothies at the start of the day, and it has been amazing. Makes you gotta go to the bathroom, but worth it. So, everybody, It has been a real pleasure hanging out with you all. Now, today, of course, we are doing donation-based readings. We have just received another donation. I would say it's pretty much, I should technically call it $20. Our friend Jeremy Lester has thrown in some money. I wonder if that is our friend Lazy Philomath here. My friend Lazy, Philomath, maybe I'll call you. I wonder if you are Jeremy Lester. If you are the person who has thrown in, yes, you are the person who has thrown in the donation. So, currently, everybody, that means that our current bar right now is at a $20 donation by our friend Philomath here. So that is our current bar for our donation basis readings today. Now, if anybody is interested, you still have a chance. So far, we'll give it a little bit of time. We'll let everybody settle in a little bit. We now have a chance for everybody who's interested to have a live reading today. Now, Renate and Fran, my friends, you guys are second in the block after our friend Philomath here, because Philomath has donated $20. The current bar is $20. If anybody wants to throw in more for their donation to bring it above $20, then you would get the next reading. And for all of you who have been donating, thank you kindly. Again, this supports me in doing what I do and allowing me to keep on sharing my love for human consciousness and for astrology and the occult dimensions of consciousness that we find in Tropical Vedic Astrology. There is always much to look at. There is always much to move through whenever we are doing astrology. And we've been focusing, of course, on our Tropical Vedic Big Three. So if you get chosen today, if you make a donation, then you will be likely moving through these things. Now, WeChat. I don't have WeChat or Allpay. Maybe these are also things that I should be joining in on. So we've got Cash App, Venmo. I've never heard WeChat. I almost feel like that's something on YouTube, like a direct YouTube payment. And then there's Allpay. So Brooklyn, my friend, I do not have WeChat or Allpay. I'm thinking that maybe I should get them if this is something that you and others are used to using. So I thank you for the recommendation on that. So for now, everybody, again, we currently have a $20 donation from our friend Philomath. And so thus far, it looks like Philomath is going to be our next reading for today. Unless anybody throws in, we'll give 5 minutes, right? And then at about the 30-minute mark after the hour, it's 11:26 where I am, and I'm close to Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. So around 11:30, the half an hour mark, the hour and a half mark, since we started an hour and a half ago, at the half an hour mark, hour and a half, whatever you want to call it, we'll be doing our next reading. So if you're watching and you want to get your chart read, now is your chance. And I hope everybody has been well. I hope that everybody's been enjoying their time. You know, I hope everybody's had a good Christmas, had good New Year's. On my channel, there's always lots of stuff going on my channel. I'm going to continue doing some moon signs. I'm going to finish my nakshatra series. And eventually, there's a few things that I'm going to start popping out in my chart and in my reality, including books. I'm going to be starting to produce books pretty soon. And that's why, if you want to be aware of when I start putting these books out, you can join my email list at dustincormier.com/subscribe. And from there, you will have a chance to see when I put my books out. I'm going to have some poetry coming out, as well as some books on the subject of Tropical Vedic Astrology. This could lead to courses. This could lead to classes. The sky's the limit. Or not even. In astrology, not even the sky is the limit. So if you want to be aware of these things, then feel free to check out my email list at dustincormier.com/subscribe. And then you'll always be aware of when I'm doing new things and putting new stuff out. Brooklyn, you're also Venus Atmakarika. How nice to see that. You know, it's funny, anybody who watches me, you can really see the character of Venus Atmakarika, as well as Virgo Swamsha. I'm a Virgo Swamsha, like our last contestant, Stan. And there's always a lot to be said about every Swamsha, right? There's always a lot to be said about everything. Excellent. So we have a lover of learning. I'm so very wonderful to hear that. Philomath. Very interesting. It would make sense that you would be interested in learning. It makes sense to me, I would say. Now, like I said, everybody, today we are going for probably 3 readings, depending. If we have time, we might do a 4th reading, depending on how things go in our session today. As it stands, currently, again, our friend Philomath is the one who has given the highest donation thus far at $20. If anybody is interested in getting a reading today, you can throw in and go. If you should donate more than $20, you will get the next reading. Now's your chance. Forever hold your peace, because we are pretty much just about ready to start on our next reading for our friend Philomath here. Excuse me. So we're at an hour and a half after the hour. So I think it's time, ladies and gentlemen, let's dig into the chart of our friend Philomath here. So Philomath, do me a favor. Congratulations. You have been chosen as our next contestant, if you so dare. Now remember, Philomath, when we're doing these sessions, we often go pretty deep. I've got a lot of Scorpio in my chart. I'm Scorpio Sun, Mars, and Pluto. And my intention is not to bring your skeletons out of the closet. But while we're doing our digging, we do tend to knock around some knobby bones in the closet and under the bed. If I speak to anything that feels like it's something that's yucky that you don't want to talk about, you can just feel free to let me know. I don't tend to dig on things too deeply, but the deeper we go, the sharper we go, the more we can get out of astrology, right? I often tell people astrology is, we're not necessarily here just for a enjoyable, gentle massage. We're here to do some work, to move the pinions of the astrological body, to move the limbs about, and in order to do what we can to truly expand and open up our understanding of ourselves. This is what we do in astrology, and this is what we do on my channel. But that being said, you can always let me know if anything doesn't feel comfortable for you. Okay, Philomath, 1969. So, let's see. If you're born 1969, I'm sure I could figure it out just on my software, but 79, 89, 99, 2009, 2019, 55, 56. You're about 56 years old. So you're probably going to be going through your second Saturn return soon, as well as you might have an important nodal turn happening. So Philomath, you have donated $20. That is the highest donation that we have at the moment. Therefore, Philomath, my friend, you are chosen as our next contestant for our reading today, and congratulations. So I haven't started my clock yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in your birth time, and then we're going to start reading your chart. My friend Monica has dropped in to say hi. Hello there, Monica. It's a pleasure to see you as always, my friend. Nice to see your shining face and name hanging out with me on my channel. Now, Philomath, do me a favor, pal. I often, just to be sure, I always try to have it where the person, when they put their dates, they go month, day, year. So let me know, Philomath, are you born on July 3rd, or are you born on the 7th of March? I'm assuming it's July 3rd, Philomath. So let me know if that's the case, if I'm right on that. And also, Philomath, it's always useful for me to know. We'll start there because I need to know whether you're born in July or whether you're born in March, 1969. July 3rd, wonderful. So it's July 3rd, 1969. And you were born at 1:32 in the morning, close to midnight. Let me know, Philomath, do you have any particular pronouns that you like to abide by? Do you consider yourself female or male? And Portsmouth, VA. I believe that is in the United States. Portsmouth, VA. Looks like we're on the right track here. Let's say Portsmouth General Hospital. All right, we have another person who's a little cuspy, but you have a pretty solid birth time. So I'm going to assume, okay, you're a dude. Thank you. Male. All right, Portsmouth, my friend. So your timer's not done yet, not ticking yet. I usually like to take a moment to make sure I've got the right chart here. Philomath, let me know, are you used to seeing yourself as an Aries rising? I have you as an Aries rising at pretty much about 28 degrees of Aries. Let me know if that feels solid for you, if that's a time that you're used to working with. It's interesting that you've got Capricorn, you've got Chiron right in the ascendant. Looks like it's closer to the beginning of Aries. Yes, all right, so you are used to using an Aries rising chart. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in both sidereal and tropical, right? So remember, I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer. So I always tend to use, that was a good stretch. Whew, that was important. I'm going to be doing some stretching and yoga after this session. It's been too long since I've sat down and hung out with you guys. So I do practice tropical Vedic astrology, which means that you are seeing, as you can see here, you'll be looking at your tropical chart in this session. So what I'm going to try to do is go through our Tropical Vedic Big Three, and somewhere along the way, I'm also going to do my best to include the deep cuts of whatever I see happening in your chart here, Philomath. Now, you've been very patient with me, my friend. Let's get started here, folks. We're going to go on our clock. We've got 30 minutes on the dial. This is our second session of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And before I begin, if you're watching live, if you're interested, if you want to donate and to be a part of our third reading today, then you can go to my PayPal or you can donate directly on YouTube, and that will give you a chance to be the next reading for the day. For now, we are with my friend Philomath here. We've got 30 minutes on the dial. Philomath, your time has started. Please do feel free to ask any questions and to take this session anywhere you ultimately want to go. You are in the hot seat here. But today we are going to focus on the Atmakarka, the Swamsha, and the moon's nakshatra, and wherever else the reading and chart takes us from there. So let's begin with the Atmakarka. The Atmakarka is the planet with the highest degrees in the chart. You can always find the Atmakarka, the highest degree planet in the chart, by finding which planet amongst all the planets is the furthest up. Now in this chart, the Jupiter and the moon are really quite tight together. Jupiter is almost the highest degree planet, but it looks like we can see our friend the moon is going to be the Atmakaraka in this chart. It's interesting that the sun falls in Cancer, and that's, we always want to look if there's anything going on in the sign of Cancer and what's going on with the moon, in general. We have a moon that's pretty close to full, although it's leaning towards the waning moon. The moon is getting away from its full moon aspect, and now it's starting to deteriorate, but still pretty close to full. And that's a nice, happy thing for the moon here. The moon is in the 11th house of Aquarius. Having the Atmakaraka, wherever the Atmakaraka is in the chart, is going to say a lot about it, as well as whatever's falling into the Atmakaraka, the sign that rules the Atmakaraka. So we have the moon as the Atmakaraka in the sign of Aquarius. This is eventually going to translate to Gemini Swamsha. So whatever's going on in Gemini is also very important in this chart. And of course, we have a nice, happy Mercury in its own sign in the 3rd house. It is not combust from what I can tell. Pretty happy situation going on here, actually. Mercury is in its own sign of Gemini. Venus is in its own sign of Taurus. And it's true that Venus is technically starved by Saturn here. Thankfully, overall, this is a pretty happy Venus by Shadbala. Venus is technically the strongest planet in Shadbala, which means you've really got a lot of Venus energy coming through you. It's going to be able to carry and sustain what we see happening in the sign of Taurus. I digress. Venus is pretty happy in this chart, even though it's starved by Saturn. And that is worth mentioning. We can see Venus and Mercury and a little bit Jupiter. Let's see what's going on with Jupiter. Jupiter's in the sign of Virgo, and it's with Ketu and Pluto. So there's a lot of interesting things going on with that Jupiter as well. This person is in the Pluto in Virgo generation, and Ketu is right there with Pluto. So Virgo is a significant placement, a significant part of the consciousness of this person. It's worth noting that we have Rahu in the 12th house in Pisces. The Lord of Rahu is in Virgo, right? The Lord of Rahu, rather, is with Ketu. That's a significant thing in itself. It shows that Jupiter and Virgo and Mercury in the 6th house, where that Pluto is going to be a key. That this is where you are going to develop your Rahu energy, through Virgo in the 6th house. So that's 6th house of debt, of dealing with your energy, dealing with health, diet, skin issues, self-confidence when it comes to, again, Virgo-related things. These are all going to be very important for you. But let's take a look at our Tropical Vedic Big Three. Our ruling planet is the moon. Already, something we can say about this person, the phrase that's given for the moon in Tropical Vedic Astrology is that it's lovesick. This is a person who is lovesick. And what that means simply is that we have a deep, all-consuming, sort of almost like a romantic heart. But romance is different from the lovesickness of the moon. We often attribute romantic affairs with the 5th house, which for you is the sun. The 5th house being ruled by Leo in an Aries rising chart. It's worth noting that we have the Lord of the 5th house, which is an important signifier of like deep, heartfelt romance. The Lord of the 5th house is falling in the 4th house of Cancer. So there's a romantic energy going on in Cancer, which rules the moon. And the moon is the Atmakaraka, which has even more of this lovesick energy. So lovesick, it's not a bad thing. What it just really means is that there's a deep, all-consuming capacity to love inside of this person. Relationships, finding peace at home in your personal and private life, amongst lovers as well as friends. These all tend to be key themes for the moon, especially when the moon rules the 4th house, the natural 4th house. It's nice when you're working with an Aries rising. All the signs are in their natural house positions. So Cancer's in the 4th house. Now, taking a quick peek at our moon in the Shadbala, it looks like it's pretty good. First thing that's worth saying is that the moon is in the sign of Aquarius in the 11th house. By being in the sign of Aquarius in the 11th house, this is a person with the Atmakaraka in that 11th house. There's probably a deep desire to, the 11th house is a tricky placement for anybody. We say the 11th house is the most inauspicious house in all of astrology. The most auspicious is the 9th, and then the 5th, and then the 1st houses. Those are relate to the elements of the rising sign. The trine houses are the best. The worst houses are the 11th, the 6th, and the 3rd. And technically, the 8th house can be a little bit finicky as well. But the 8th house isn't a dastana like these other houses are. So the moon in the 11th house, it'll get better over time because it's an upachaya house. You'll find, especially around age 36, that things start to, you get to have a bit of a breath of fresh air after age 36 with regards to what the moon is trying to do. But with the moon as the Atmakaraka, we have the 4th lord in the 11th house. Really, a deep theme that we see here is that one's personal bliss and happiness is probably going to be tied in with what you accomplish in life. You see, we have the lord of the 4th house falling in the 11th house, right? Cancer rules. What's nice when we have the moon or the sun as the Atmakaraka is there's a strong emphasis of only one sign, because the moon only rules one sign. It's the sign of Cancer. So the moon is the Atmakaraka. How do we quantify what to expect from a moon Atmakaraka person? Well, we're going to look at what's going on with Cancer, at what house it rules, and its lordship as it falls into its sign. In this case, the moon rules the 4th house. So we have the ruler of the 4th house falling into the 11th house. And right away, this is a relevant thing that we can speak to inside of this reading as regards the Atmakaraka. We know the moon is this love-hungry person. It's going to be very important for you ultimately to have deep personal inner happiness. What is your deep personal inner happiness? Well, when the 4th lord falls into the house of gain, there's funny things that can happen because of the nature of the 11th house. Essentially, the 11th house wants accomplishment. It's the house of gains. When there's planets happening in the 11th house, there's a hunger to accomplish something there. And when I have not accomplished that, I'm not happy until I've accomplished that thing. That's the tricky thing about any planets falling into the 11th. So really, you won't find 4th house happiness until you've accomplished something in the 11th house. It's almost like you want to be seen in the world as being a good lover, right? Well, we have the moon as the 4th house lord up here in the 11th house. Notice how it's in the top of the chart where everyone can see it. It's the gains that you've gained from your career and from what you do with yourself. The moon in Aquarius in the 11th house, the Aquarius theme kind of doubles here in wanting to be regarded in your friend groups as being someone who is loved. It's a really big piece of what we see happening here. This is a person who wants to be regarded by their friend groups as someone who is capable of giving deep love and who gives and receives deep love some way, somewhere along the line. It's a little tricky in the 11th house, so what we can do is we're going to read a little bit from The Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2 by Ryan Kirksack and Richard Fish. We're looking at the ruler of the 4th house in the 11th house. And remember, this is the Atmakaraka. It's good for you to be conscious of being distressed by hidden diseases. This might mean chronic diseases that come from, again, never feeling like I'm settled. There might be a part of you that feels I've got to compete. I've got to experience this love. And if I don't, if everyone else is experiencing love and I'm not, this is a love sickness that combines with the 11th house to feel like I haven't done enough. I haven't done what I'm supposed to do in my life. I'm not who I'm supposed to be. Even though you probably are. The moon is well placed in this chart, so I don't have worries for it. But part of the energy here is that you might actually gain through land, property, vehicles, and educational matters. Being some kind of teacher, being somebody who teaches somehow. These are things related to the 4th house, right? It's at the bottom of the earth, especially with the sun there. You know, you might find with the sun in the 4th house and the 4th lord in the 11th house, the gains of the 11th house are going to come through the 4th house. So this is going to come through land, property, vehicles. You might be somebody who flips houses, who involves yourself in real estate, who might be a real estate manager of some sort. You know, you might be somebody who got into some kind of housing market, you know, where you might have put a mortgage on a house, and maybe, you know, I've got the sun, Mars, Pluto in the 4th house, so I did this through the guidance of my family. I put a mortgage on a house, and I got the renters to pay for the mortgage back around 2012, and I made a bag off of it. I got pretty lucky at the time that I did this. The people inside the house are going to help to pay your mortgage and all the bills. Plus, if you make enough extra money over time, not only does the house appreciate in value, but also you're ideally paying the mortgage off as well. So it's an investment that you can keep putting into until eventually the house is paid off. Then the renters are just paying you money. And now you have this investment, plus you have equity, which means you can go to the bank and say, I own a house. So you can take a chunk of the equity from your home and use that to get a mortgage on another home. Buy that place, fix it up to the nines, have people rent it, and then the renters pay the bills plus the mortgage, plus you save a little extra money on that so you can slap it on top of the principal of the mortgage so that over time that investment makes itself an investment that you just have. This is the kind of thing that comes from the 4th lord falling in the 11th house. You might even find that you have an emotional connection and attachment to being somebody who does this kind of thing, who makes money, who has investments, who is a worldly entrepreneurial person in this way. It's also true that by having the 4th lord falling in the 11th house, you might find that you get emotional upliftment and fulfillment in large groups. It's important for you to follow your heart to fulfill your dreams, of what makes you happy, of what makes you deeply when you close your eyes and you think, what would make me feel like, of all the things I could be doing, you know, you almost got to think like, with the 4th house, who am I when I'm not working? Right? The 10th house is who am I when I'm working. The 4th house is who am I when I'm not working? There's a heart that you need to follow. There's an emotional, do you want to have a family? Do you want to have a lover that you connect deeply and romantically with? I'm willing to bet that you are this type of person who wants to have this kind of thing, this kind of experience. You're emotionally uplifted through awards, titles, and certificates. So being able to say that I got this title. I was the track runner in my high school. I had this career where I followed this talent. And I love doing it for its own sake. This is like a musician who writes songs just for the beauty of those songs. I wrote them for me. And then it just so happens that you also decide, you know, maybe other people might like this. And you put it out there in your 11th house, and people love you and give you accolades for this thing that you created for yourself. That's like the 4th lord with the sun, with this creative element falling in the 11th house. So these awards will give you this. You might have an intelligence with finances. Awesome, Philomath. Thanks for giving us a little bit of background on what's been happening with you. You chose music. You lost everything in a house fire. Restrictive childhood killed your ambition. Legal issues didn't help. You've been busking music on the sidewalk. You know, the legal issues definitely would relate to what we see with Pluto, Ketu, and Jupiter falling into Virgo. You know, thankfully, Mercury is placed in a way in this chart where you've probably got a little bit of a sense of how to deal with such things. Mercury being a little bit starved by the moon shows that you've probably got an emotional reality that might have happened from childhood that might have made it difficult for you to be fully present and to fully come through with the legalities that you move through with these legal issues. Awesome that you're busking music on the sidewalk. You know, this is a way for you to find that inner happiness, because ultimately when you're playing music, when you find that people are enjoying the work that you do, there's an energy that comes from that. There's an energy that comes from the 4th house, which is this mystical energy. Ultimately, all of us are seeking to take our vitality and use it in a way that helps us survive better. And the emotions are an important dimension of that happiness that we can find. You know, I could see Mars being retrograde can do certain things, especially because you're in Aries rising. But a planet going retrograde is not necessarily a bad thing. Mars going retrograde wouldn't have caused your house to burn down in a fire. You know, it is interesting that Mars is implicated in this way, as Mars does relate to fire in this way. But I digress. Mars is okay in this chart. You know, the two planets that are a little bit fickle in this chart are Mercury and Venus, which are important planets of communication. But thankfully, you do have a good Saturn. And Saturn is going to help with the Aquarius theme. I digress. You know, what we have here is somebody with the moon at Makaraka, and the moon falls into Gemini in the Swamsha. So you've got a T-square here is what you're saying. We've got a T-square between Mars, Mercury, and all this stuff going on in the nodes. Really, that's not such a bad thing. Mercury is probably harming Mars a little bit by being opposite Mars. But ultimately, having a planet square to the nodes can actually be a good thing because they're not terribly affected by the nodes. You know, something I really see in this chart is the difficulty going on with Jupiter. Jupiter's one planet that's kind of getting a little bit rocked by being starved by Mercury in the sign of Virgo, and it's with Ketu and Pluto. But for you, my friend, what's important for you, Philomath, is to remember to have emotional connections with people. I think you, especially because Saturn, you're coming up to your Saturn return, you've gone through Sadhisati, and as Saturn comes into Aries in the sky at present, it's going to move through the sign of Aries, and it's eventually going to move into Taurus in 2028 when you're going to have your second Saturn return. This is probably a time where you're going to find a little bit of a reconsolidation of your resources. It's important for you to have financial awareness. It might even be good for you to have, to save any money, any income that you can. Take 10-15% of it, put it away into a savings account, even one that you consider to be investments in broad, diversified ETF funds. That way you've got your money stewing for you while you do whatever work that you're doing. Now, Venus, Moon, and Mars, Neptune. I think that you're saying that there's a strong T-square there. Definitely Venus, Moon, Neptune. And I guess Mars, I see what you mean, technically could be in that sort of square. You don't have any planets in the bottom of the T-square, though. But I digress. for the sake of this reading, what's really most important is, again, the moon as the Atmakaraka, being an emotional planet. And what's really important for you is to have emotional energy. Our emotional and vital energies count. The love that we experience. You might find whatever is, money advice is good for everybody, especially with Saturn in the second house. You know, Venus is down there too, and Venus is getting a little bit stomped on in its own sign by Saturn. But over time, Saturn in the second house is teaching you how to deal with your money constructively and consciously. Having all this stuff in Virgo in the sixth house is also a debt energy. You know, being conscious of how debt can crush you, being conscious of paying off your debts, and possibly even using debt to pay off debt. But you want to be very conscious and careful. You know, be careful of credit cards. You know, if you can pay off credit card debt, any kind of stuff like that you can, it's going to help you get rid of a lot of this sticky K2, Pluto, Jupiter energy in the sixth house. You know, that Jupiter is under a lot of duress, trying to find ways of cleverly dealing with debts and dealing with this scattering of your vital resources. Saturn in the second house is going to at least help you to bring some of that into cohesion by having money sense and awareness. And what's nice is that we have the moon is the Atmakaraka. It's falling into Gemini Swamsha. Gemini Swamsha is an important sign, especially having Mercury in Gemini in your birth chart. We can see that there's an intelligence that comes from understanding how the world works. That comes from understanding how money works. And knowing what you need to do for yourself and how to cleverly play on the world to bring about the happiness that you seek. You know, you might be talented. I could see how you would be good with music. Even Venus and Saturn being in the second house. Saturn in the second house is probably going to teach you over the long term how to use your voice constructively. And Mercury is very clever. It's not combust. It's in its own sign of Gemini. There's a cleverness of Mercury here that should use its voice in seeking the joy and talent and using your skills in a way that is useful for everything that you're doing in your life. You might find that you get into money management as an Aries rising with Capricorn and Aquarius ruled by Saturn. That's the 10th house and the 11th house. Your 10th house lord is falling into this second house. It's very well placed by being with Venus. You might find that learning about money, you know, books like, there's a great book called The Psychology of Money. In Canada, we have a book called The Wealthy Barber. There's another one called The Richest Man in Babylon. These are all books that will start to teach you about financial sense and how to make any money that you do get last as long as possible through investments. And it's never a bad time to learn about these things at any point in life. You don't owe anyone. Man, just not being in debt is almost like being on top of things. Trust me, there are plenty of people in this world who are in debt to various things, and that can cook us in the long run. Now, the bad loans is something that you want to be aware of, especially, you know, with Jupiter placed the way it is in your chart. You might find that you have a rough consciousness of character. It might be tough for you to see the goodness in a person and the intelligence of a person that you do business with. You know, you might give them a lot of rope, you know, just enough rope for you to hang yourself with, you know. So be very conscious of the character of the people that you associate with. Learn about money and talk with them about money so that when you do loans with them, you find that that loan doesn't go to something that is almost emotionally driven. You know, your Mercury is a little bit starved by the moon here, and Venus being starved as well. One thing that's worth noting in this chart is that your money, your hard-earned money, your value the things that you've created in your life. You know, when you say bad loans, I wonder if you mean that you've given money to people in the past and they didn't do anything well with that loan. You might have felt almost emotionally or philosophically obliged to give people money because, oh, this poor person needs money. And by doing that, you know, we have to be careful when we think emotionally about money, about our own energy, about the scattering of our own funds. This is a theme that's important for all of us, especially right now. As I suspected, you are actually, I think you mentioned this, the nodes are going over this very important point of Pisces and Virgo. So you've got eclipses happening. In September, there was an eclipse in Virgo, which is right on your Jupiter, actually. That was this September 2025. So you might have found that put a profound pressure on Sagittarius and Pisces and your money, your finances. I think your finances will get a little bit of a break and things will get a little bit easier for you as the nodes eventually in 2026 come into the Aquarius and Leo axis. What you might find is that in 2026, it's good to live on less, but that doesn't mean that you can't have money. But yeah, it's good to have a minimalist idea. But it's good to feed yourself, and don't forget whatever it is that happened in your childhood that caused you to have difficulty in being emotionally strong and relating with the opposite sex and connecting with others and having this deep sense of love, of friendship. These themes are all very important, especially doing things with friends as a musician. Of course, in dire times, we all want to focus on money. We all want to focus on survival. This is important, but you will find if you have emotional connections and people who you love who are encouraging you to be happy, to have self-reflection, self-realization, to have happiness with other people, this will give you a vital energy that will actually allow you to live your life and even to have the vital mental energy to deal with your survival. You're the one who chose the experience that keeps you from blaming. Well, that's good. Although you don't want to, burn yourself up with self-blame and self-criticism for anything that happens in your life either. It's good not to blame. You're on the right side of it. Energetically, that is the proper attitude to have. But watch your self-talk, right? It's good not to let yourself get stuck in the oceanic mud, the swamp of, I've created all this pain in my life because pain is my life, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, all of the pain, all the difficulty you've gone through is the universe guiding you to believe in yourself, to believe in your happiness, and to believe in your ability to be conscious of your own money, your own vital resources, your own root chakra, which you can do. You're at 56 years old, 55, 56 years old. You're at a time that it's never a bad time. They say in investing, the best time to plant a pine tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is right now. And you have the ability to be conscientious of your vital forces, of where your money is going, learn about money, and at least learn to be able to develop yourself a nest egg so you can survive well enough to gain the joy that you seek to gain in this life, which is, again, very emotionally centered for you. Having this moon on Makaraka and having the sun in Cancer in the 4th house. So we have moon on Makaraka. We have Gemini Swamsha. Gemini Swamsha is all about learning information, learning all about the world. And it's good for them to eventually, it's especially interesting that you've got, that's our alarm for our session. I'm just going to finish it up here. Mars is not quite opposite this Mercury. But ultimately, as a Gemini Swamsha, all things related to Sagittarius are going to pull you into a sense of what you're missing, of the opposite, and might even be a part of the love that you experience. You might love people with Sagittarius energy because you are a Gemini Swamsha, right? So let's finish this off here for our friend Polymath, and then we'll move on to our next session. It's worth noting with the moon's nakshatra, anytime we do these readings, for you, the moon is in the nakshatra of Shatabishak as well. We just did another chart that was in Shatabishak. Let me just check to be sure that that's the case. Yep, you're Shatabishak. So you are also somebody who, similar to our friend Stan, I'm getting all the Shatabishak today. Shatabishak would be somebody who is a passionate person. They have a million ideas that are in the ether, and they're looking to make it concise and congruent and tangible. Since the moon is your Atmakaraka, it's probably the case that you might want to have lovers who appreciate you for all the ideas that you have about the world, for taking abstract concepts, subtle concepts and ideas, and putting them in tangible, creative, concrete form. Concrete forms which you can experience and love in your life. There's a desire to combine and join multiple things, so there's a passionate sexual potential as well. So remember, especially because you've got Pluto, Ketu, and Jupiter here in Virgo. Virgo is a space that's prepubescent. It relates to childhood, and it relates to our ability to communicate about the kind of love that we seek to have in life. There's also a theme of mystical 12th house versus 6th house practical pragmatic realities. It's important for you to find peace through meditation and self-reflection, and to have those moments where you decompress from the world. But mostly, what's also important is don't allow yourself, with Rahu and Pisces in the 12th house, you can be almost delusional. You can almost dissociate a lot. You want to run away from your responsibilities. You want to run away from the debts that you've accumulated. So it's important for you to meditate while you're chopping the carrots, while you're dealing with your debt, while you're working a job that allows you to be present, meditating, calm, whatever job it is. You can get any job. Well, depending on where you are. Jobs are a tricky, crazy thing these days, especially in the United States, if that's where you are. But while you're doing whatever it is that keeps you alive, be patient, be focused, meditate. That is your space for peace. So it might be good for you to have some kind of gig that is a simple meditative quality where you're doing something that you believe in, that the world needs. And you chop those carrots and you act in a meditative way, and then be conscientious of what you do with your vital resources, because this is going to give you the resources you need to enjoy the moon, to enjoy your emotions, and to enjoy the connections and love that you deserve to have with everybody. Think about the joy that you want and start letting it to be manifested. You have all that you need in order to do so. There's nothing in your chart that's really stopping you from doing what you need to do. All it's going to take is a bit of self-reflection, patience, inner peace. And I believe that you can do it, Polymath, Philomath. Thank you so much, Philomath. Thank you very much for being a part of this reading today. Let's give our friend Philomath a nice little Dumbledore golf clap. Yes, very well done. I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm somebody who likes to repeat things over and over again. It's how I is. But I digress. Philomath, you've been a wonderful viewer and audience member. Thank you for sharing your chart with us today. And good luck with your music. Good luck with finding the love that your heart seeks, and remembering that your vital resources, your energy, you are worthy, you are valid. You don't owe anybody anything. You have nothing to prove to anybody. You're already beautiful. And remembering that as you open your heart should bring you some of the joy that you seek in your life. Very good. Thank you, Philomath. So that was our second reading for the day, everybody. Now, we had two people today. We had Fran and we had Renate, I believe was the name. Fran and Renate, who had originally donated for us. And I appreciate the donations. This is how this often works when we're doing this kind of donation basis. It's whoever is given the largest donation is the one that we're going to give the reading for. Now, those two people, if you have been watching, if you've been patiently waiting, at the moment, we don't have any other donations. So if you're watching live, we have a few people still watching us live. Here is my friend Izzy. Wonderful. And Izzy, I believe your name was Fran. It's very nice to see you, Izzy. Now, we also had Renate. If Renate is here, then we could choose between the two of you. And, we could do something like I could pick a number, something like that. Whoever picks a number closest to what I pick. So if Renate is here, you still have a chance at getting a reading today. And as well, for everybody watching, it's worth us mentioning, you still have time. If you're watching this and you want to donate, you can donate through PayPal or you can donate right on YouTube. The current bar is $13. That's what my friend Fran has done. Now, if nobody comes in and decides to donate anymore, then our dear friend Fran is going to be our next contestant for today, for this reading. And I do thank you dearly, Fran, for supporting my channel and for hanging out this whole time. You've been rocking on with us and being a part of this reading from the beginning, so you would certainly deserve it if you are to get this reading. So let's give everybody a little bit of time. Again, this is our Hot Rock Astrology for the day, our donation-based readings. It is a pleasure to do these things with you folks. It's a pleasure to be able to have something constructive like this. If any key dates on love. Let's see what you got going on here, Fran. 1969, 1:32 a.m., Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You're wondering if any key dates on love. You were married in July 2007. Any marriage again. Love coming in. 3 relationships. And currently single. Interesting, we have another person from 1969. So it's likely that you've got a similar chart to our friend Polymath. Why do I think that's Philomath? You've got the same year and also 1:32 in the morning. Crazy. So yes, it's interesting that you guys are going to have similar charts. And it's nice because I'm just going to, thankfully, Fran, if you've been watching the previous video, this is going to give you a little bit of extra data from watching. Oftentimes this happens in astrology. We see someone with similar stuff to us and we're like, oh, wow, I can relate to everything going on there. It's almost like a free little bit of extra information on yourself. So the 1969 theme is going to put you also at about 55, 56 years old. You are probably going to be in very similar circumstances. So it looks to me, Fran, like, I'll do another bathroom break. And it's worth me saying that, I do like to offer my channel here to anyone who wants to donate. So we're going to give a few more minutes to anybody who wants to donate. Again, you can go right on YouTube or you can donate through PayPal. Let's do a quick bathroom break, and when we come back, we're going to see how things are, and we're going to go on from there, folks. 56, gotcha. Thank you, Fran. Okay, folks, let's do a bathroom break, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Holy lordy, folks, I am snowed in. I've been at my father's cottage for quite a long time now. I'm just going to get back to my comments here. And she's snowy out there, let me tell you what. That do be the facts. I'm going to have to do some snow shoveling before my dad gets to it. Well, everybody, it's a pleasure to have you all here. And of course, this is How to Rock Astrology. We've been doing donation-based readings today, and I'm happy to say that I've made a good buck off of it from all of my people who are supporting me and donating to my cause here. I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate having you all here. Today, we are going to be discussing a little bit of our Tropical Vedic Big 3. We're going to get into the Tropical Vedic Big 3 of our next contestant. Now, for anybody who is watching live, you have a chance right now to donate and to get the reading. In order to do so, you can go directly through YouTube, or you can go through my PayPal. If you're watching this, if you're just joining us now, you have a chance to do so. If not, we're going to give a few moments, and we're going to go to the next highest bidder, which currently is my friend Fran, who is here hanging out with us today. So you've got to donate $15 or more in order to get this reading. But it looks like Fran is our current person in stock lined up. So let's go with Fran. You've been patient and you've been hanging out with us this whole time. Congratulations, Fran, my dear. You are the next victim of How to Rock Astrology. Now keep in mind, Fran, that when we do these readings, we tend to go deep, and there's always depth there. There's always depth to go to in a reading. And when we do so, my intention is not to, throw your skeletons out of the closet for everyone to see. Our intention is to look deeply into yourself, to have a moment of self-reflection, to see what the stars say about your general attitudes and temperament, and how this self-reflection can bring you some self-realization. And it looks like you already get the bill here. You already know what's going on. You've already given me a little bit about what's happening in your life. So let's now begin and dig into our reading for Fran today. So Fran, you've given me your birth time. What we have is November 25th, 1969. We have you as 1:32 in the morning, a nice exact birth time. You are born in the United States of America, particularly Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Wow, there's lots of Pittsburghs in the United States, eh? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm assuming PA is going to be the code for Pennsylvania. State code. PA. Good. Just had to check that. So we have Pittsburgh, PA. And this puts you as a Virgo rising. Very, 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 very interesting. Because now, yep, so I got you for PA there. So this gives us, based on what I can see here, we have now the chart of a Virgo rising at about 23 degrees, which means that both Ketu and Pluto are within 10 degrees of the rising sign itself. There's a lot to be said about when Rahu and Ketu are on the 1st and 7th house axis. And there's really also a lot to be said for Pluto being there too. You are in that Pluto and Virgo generation. Yeah, so I got you as Virgo rising. Jupiter in Libra, Venus in Scorpio. Yeah, looks like we've got the right chart here. And that is going to put you as Taurus Swamsha. That is correct. So, looks like we're on the right track here. Now, Fran, my friend, I'm going to put you for a half an hour, like we've been doing with all of our contestants. I'm ready to go. I think now is our time. Let's rock and roll, and let's shoot for a half an hour. I think I'm ready to start my timer. Bippity boppity boop. Let's roll. So, Fran, you've already asked me a few questions about what you'd like to talk about in your chart reading today. Let's just take let's just do a quick moment here. I'm going to dive into everything I see happening in this chart. We have Mercury and the Sun in the 4th house of Sagittarius. Mercury is combust, which is definitely going to be a little bit of trouble for this Virgo rising energy. And whatever's going on with Pluto is going to be relevant, with, I meant to say Pisces. We have Rahu in Pisces, which means whatever's going on with Jupiter is going to play a key part in this reading. Now, already we have a lot of themes piling up here. Because, Fran, you have the nodes on the Virgo-Pisces axis, and we have Jupiter Atmakaraka. So you have the same Atmakaraka as our friend Stan in the beginning. Remember, I often take a lot of time to discuss these Tropical Vedic Big Three. We have Jupiter Atmakaraka here, which means that there is a sort of a teacher, a philosopher, someone for whom behaviors, religion, philosophy, and even the theme of children are going to be important. Especially for a woman, Jupiter is also going to emphasize love. Not only is this the case, Jupiter for all women represents love, just like Venus represents love for men. Jupiter represents love for women. So whatever's going on with Jupiter in your chart is going to say a lot about your experience with love. It's especially relevant that Rahu, which is the main evolutionary narrative, Rahu is in Pisces in the 7th house. So the 7th house, Rahu is showing that there is a need to integrate the opposite gender because you might be very stuck on the nature of your own gender as a woman. You might think so deeply about what a woman is. You might have ideas about what a woman is and what a woman's supposed to be, how a woman is supposed to interact with men, and how men are supposed to interact with a woman that might clash with reality. You might find, because you've got this axis happening, that, again, especially anyone with deep karma in Virgo, Virgo rising, Ketu in Virgo, and Pluto in Virgo, are all going to teach you, you're of the generation where you might have seen a lot of crazy, energies and transformations of your ideas of men and women as time has gone on, as the transgender movement happened, as you've got neuter people, you've got people who are asexual and non-binary, and all of this kind of stuff happening in today's time. This has been a pull, an exercise, a stretching of what we all understand of the male and female gender in today's time. It's for a purpose. It's for a good reason. It's teaching us all to empathize with the opposite gender. Now, especially because this is your rising sign, the Ketu and Pluto in Virgo in the rising sign, and because Mercury is combusted by the sun, there's going to be a little bit of a theme here. Not only is it combusted by the sun, but it's also opposite the moon. It's interesting that the moon and sun are in a nice full moon, which is actually really nice. It looks like we've got some good stuff happening with the moon overall in this chart. The moon is in fact considered to be the strongest planet in this chart, even though it's on the top of the chart with the highest digbala. So you have moon strength. Lots of very strong digbala going towards the moon. But one thing that's worth mentioning that we see some difficulty in this chart is that the sun is a little bit tough in this chart. It's at about like the low 50s in terms of its required strength. Mercury is at 90% of its required strength, and Jupiter is at 90% also of its required strength. So these three planets in Shadbala, which is sort of like the cosmic report card, these three planets all work together. They all kind of have each other's backs. It's a really nice thing that at least Jupiter is close to the first house cusp, where it likes to be. But the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter are all having a little bit of difficulty in this chart. So there is a tendency towards a difficulty with inspiration, a difficulty with feeling playfully guided to have the qualities and values and skills that would make you feel like a valuable woman, like a valuable person in relationships and partnerships. The sun energy being this difficult in this chart, the Leo rules the 12th house, which means that it might be difficult for you to consciously develop inner peace. Similar to the last chart, where we were talking about how difficulty with the 12th Lord means that you need to find peace while you're chopping the carrots. You can't exactly dissociate too much. You might feel a desire or a need to dissociate in some ways once in a while. Your first relationship was with a Leo and he sucked. It's worth noting that, every relationship we go through is a karmic reflection on ourselves based on what we attract. And not everybody who's a Leo or who's a Cancer are going to be bad or are going to have bad experiences for you. What's more important for you, Fran, is to look within yourself at the qualities that you can apply yourself to that would make you feel valuable yourself. That's the first gig. Everybody needs to feel valuable in themselves first. And everybody has some good that they have inside themselves. We especially tend to look at Jupiter to see what that goodness is. So there is a theme with the Virgo where it would be good for you to communicate what has happened to you in your childhood, which is not going to support being a good communicator in relationships. This could come through reading, and it can come through therapy. You might find with Mercury in the 4th house that you probably enjoy reading, and you enjoy learning and discovering about things that help to give you self-improvement. One of the things that would probably be useful for your self-improvement is reading about books, reading things that are going to give you this important self-reflection. If you have the ability to, my dear, because I do believe that relationships and relationship karma. Okay, so you hate reading. That's very Mercury combust of you. Whether it's reading, whether it's watching YouTube videos on a subject that is important to you, or whether it is doing important communicative work with yourself through self-reflection, and also through other people, through the help of a therapist, and through the help of friends. This is Mercury stuff. Mercury is a reader, but it also is a communicator and talker. It likes to talk about what's going on. What am I missing? What should I be doing? Why have I not been gaining the love and the happiness that I seek in my life? You know, truth be told, as a Jupiter at Makaraka person, you know, you've got a tricky situation here in your chart, because Jupiter is your Atmakaraka, and Jupiter's sign Pisces has Rahu in it. And we know whenever we have an Atmakaraka, we look at what's happening inside the signs ruled by that Atmakaraka to get a sense of some of the important themes that we can expect in a chart. In this case, we have the Sun and Mercury in Sagittarius, Mercury being combust there. And we have Rahu in Pisces. Now, it's also interesting that Jupiter is so close to Ketu in this chart. Really what's indicated, especially because Jupiter is the Atmakaraka, the themes of Jupiter, the 4th house, the 7th house, finding your personal inner peace is going to be important for you. Oh, cool. You got a new job for 2026. I wonder what it is. I'm curious. You know, working jobs is going to be important karma for you, because Gemini, which rules Mercury, is your 10th lord and your 1st lord. Mercury rules the 10th house and the 1st house. So I'm not too surprised that you might be going through a little bit of a change in your career while the eclipses are happening in Virgo and Pisces. But really, the eclipses right now for you are teaching you to find balance between yourself and your rising sign. There was an eclipse in September that would have extremely taught you this. And now we're going to have eclipses and lunar eclipses happening in March. And this is going to bring out this theme even further of what do you need emotionally to be happy with yourself, to be happy in relationships. Anybody with the nodes on an earth and water axis needs to make peace with water, which is the desires inside their soul, and earth, which is material, which is your career, which is your money. It's important for you to be conscientious of money being an instrument of your soul bliss, and soul bliss providing an energetic foundation to stabilize your money. And a lot of this might come through relationships and the opposite sex. So I am glad to hear that you've got a new job, and I'd love to hear what it is, Fran, if you feel like sharing, because I can, I'm happy to shoot the shit about it. But truly, in this reading, when I read this, what would be an important piece of yourself is relating with other people, not feeling like an alien. Now, with Jupiter having a Rahu energy with Rahu and Pisces deeply wants to feel the joy of being loved for what you are, sometimes often in a coupling, in a relationship. Now, the Lord of Pisces and Sagittarius, that's Jupiter, your Atmakaraka Jupiter, falls into Libra in the 2nd house. What we see here is some difficulty that might have happened in the age of puberty. It's also especially relevant, by the way. It's worth us mentioning. In this reading, we should say that you are Jupiter Atmakaraka, which means all things related to Jupiter, including Rahu in that 7th house. and it also rules the 4th house. The 4th and 7th house are very strongly related to relationships. Virgo is a strong relationship person. So the experience you have in relationships is going to be a part of who you are. Not just, you don't need to have a partner to be happy, but having friendships, having connections and correlations and collaborations with people, with friends, with others. This is going to be a key dimension of what brings you the self-reflection that Jupiter really needs. And to also feel like you're not a piece of shit. Someone with Jupiter energy like yours, they can be inclined to feel like they're a piece of shit. Or like, that you're stacking yourself, you're judging yourself based on relationships you've had, based on what other people think of my relationships and how I've been in my relationships. But you've been moving through the cosmos in the way that you have because the universe is teaching you how to love yourself. All parts of yourself. That's why I would even recommend, there's a thing happening in therapy that I'm going to start getting into. It's called inner family systems. And you might do well to find a practitioner who can move through the ideas of inner family systems and to counsel you in this way. What happens is that you look back at your past, back at your childhood, back at the times when there was something happening to you that might have frustrated you, that might be judging other parts of yourself. This happens. We all have distended personalities inside of ourselves. The inner critic inside of you might be very annoying and pinchy and judgmental to the part of you that wants to seek this love, seek these experiences with people. You might have an inner critic in you, especially with this K2 Pluto in Virgo energy. You might deeply criticize yourself to pieces. Whereas most people when they're in relationships, you're not expected to be perfect. What you're expected to be is you. You're just expected to be yourself. We're not intended to be. The more we try to think we're perfect, that's like, a fish trying to think that he's perfect. A fish doesn't think about whether it's perfect. A fish just fishes. It does what a fish does. It just keeps swimming. It just keeps swimming. And it doesn't let these mental attitudes and comparisons to other people get in the way of it just following its nature, following its dharma, following what it's supposed to do. If you find you have this deep critical nature about yourself, this is an example of something that you can explore through counseling and therapy, or through friends, deep, close loved ones that you can talk about and say that I've always felt I can't talk about this because my father and mother didn't encourage me to talk about these things. Remember, with K2, Pluto, and Virgo rising, this is going to relate with your identity. You might find that you have been limited in how you can talk about who you are, your basic identity. And one of the reasons is because the sun is combust Mercury in this 4th house. As well, the moon is also causing some damage to Mercury. Both of these together are harming Mercury. You might feel shame or emotional embarrassment. You might be emotionally compelled to make everyone else happy. And you might, on the altar of serving other people's happiness, in order that you can have love, especially because Mercury is falling in this 4th house here. So there could be abandonment complexes happening here, where the sun, you might feel the only way for you to have an identity with yourself is to feel like when you have a partner, it might feel natural for them to have masculine energy that kind of burns your voice. You might think this is natural. Oh, this is just like my father was. You might attract men who are like your father, who didn't allow you to communicate all the things you wanted to talk about. You might even be somewhat attracted to that type of person. Of course, you'll also be attracted to a Libra energy, because Jupiter, for a woman, wherever it falls, they tend to be attracted to that type of person. So you might be attracted to someone with Libra energy, someone who's interested in money, in being conscientious about money, because you yourself want to understand money. by having that Jupiter in the second house. Truly, you might have a little bit of luck with money. You might be able to pull things in that bring you sort of money in this way. But what's important for this part of this conversation is that your Mercury is probably very used to not talking about its feelings, about what it truly seeks in partnership, about the type of love. And when you have a love partner, you might find there's things that you're not allowed to say. This is because the sun, which represents authority for all of us, it represents government. It can often represent father in our earliest childhood upbringing from our parents. You might find the father theme of Sagittarius and the sun might burn you out a little bit and might burn your ability to communicate and what you want to do. So the age of Mercury is from age 3 to age 12. This is before you went through puberty. This might have made you feel like, I'm not somebody who's interesting at a friendship level. People might not find me interesting. I don't know enough about the world, and I don't communicate and talk about things. Because the sun doing what it does in this chart, especially the sun is the 12th lord, you might even feel a little bit mute. Like it's hard for you to say what you actually want to say. Because whatever planet rules the 12th house, when it's conjunct another planet, there's a feeling of the loss of the Mercury in this case. The sun rules the 12th house and is not only conjunct Mercury, but it's also combusting Mercury. So, with Virgo rising, the sun ruling the 12th house, you might serve people by shutting up and struggling. By saying somebody will tell you to shut up, and you'll shut up, and you'll silently struggle and serve them in silence. And you might think that this is who you're supposed to be. This is the sad, blessed nature of Virgo. When things go a little funky in Virgo's chart, because Leo rules the 12th house for Virgo, they think that their strongest value is suffering in silence. And I can assure you that there might be a part of you where you might even feel like you can suffer in a relationship through a person who has spiky, prickly energy. And there's something to be enjoyed by a woman who doesn't speak when something's bothering her. I have to put my hand on my heart because I can understand that you think you're serving everybody by doing that. I have a lot of Virgo. I'm Virgo Swamsha. I have a lot of women in my life who have Virgo energy who think that that's a good thing to do. But you have to understand that just shutting up and struggling and serving silently, it's not good for your own consciousness. And any partner, any lover that you want to have, you would need, they wouldn't almost, it's hard to trust somebody who doesn't take care of themselves. Now, Fran, I don't want you to think that you can't have love and that you can't do this. I understand that you want to stay single and focus on your job. As an astrologer, I'd like to wonder out loud and reflect with you are you running away from a deeper karmic responsibility by neglecting this communication, the freeing of your voice? You can free your throat chakra, free your voice in relationship, in your deepest relationships, in the deepest happiness that you experience for yourself. How do you talk with others in order to create that deeper happiness? You can do it. It would take work, because ultimately, the first thing that you asked me about when you started this reading was what love was going to look like for you. And, any astrologer worth their salt would tell you that in order for us to find love, We have to do what you're saying, which is to find love within ourselves first. Love can come to you, and you don't need to run away from everybody in order to find that love within you. What you want to wonder is, are you resisting? The outside and the inside are all the same. Anybody who goes and talks with people, talks with their friends, their closest friends, has a connection with them, communicates with them and talks with them, that's part of their inner happiness. It very much can be. So the world you create by talking with people about the joy that you seek to experience. Do you ever talk with people about what would make you happy, Fran? Do you ever talk with friends or your family or some kind of therapist or trusted counselor about what you need in order to be happy? Would that be a difficult thing for you to do, Fran? Because I'm sure there's lots that you would say that you would need in order to be happy. There's lots we all need. But you'd be surprised at just talking with others, acknowledging, when the sun has combust Mercury, it's like a pressure, like my dad has always told me to shut up and don't talk. That's kind of the vibe there. My dad, my family, maybe you're the youngest sibling or the oldest sibling or whatever it is, your culture has told you to shut up. No one wants to hear you. It's inconvenient for us to have to hear your voice. And this has been a soul emergence from past lives. It's probably, especially because you've got Ketu and Pluto and Virgo in the first house. In your past lives, you would probably feel like it's frustrating everybody for me to talk about my own destiny, for me to talk about my own career, for me to talk about what value I have as a lover, for me to talk about the happiness that I seek in that fourth house. Remember, it's our private inner sanctum of happiness. To have Mercury combust there, it shows that there might be a feeling that whenever you talk about these things, there's a pressure. I'm inconvenient to these people. I'm bothering everybody by trying to talk with them about my love. The truth is, darling, that it's probably a phantasm, a phantom that you're creating yourself. If you could see how this agitation was coming from within you due to childhood programming, you might find that people actually do want to hear what makes you happy. Like I want to hear it. I would love to know what makes you happy, Fran. And if I was here one-on-one with you and I could see you on my screen, I would stop what I'm doing and I would ask you, your happiness, Fran, is going to make the world happier. Because this is what gives the world its happiness, is by all of us radiating our own personal happiness. By having our own roots, we can give our spiritual fruits. If we don't, then we're just stealing from the world, and the world is stealing from us. And it never feels like enough. Bill Cipher, my friend, this is a live reading, and it's okay. Yes, you can donate. If you like, we've done 3 readings already. So then if we were to do any more readings from here, it would be $30 for the last donation. If you feel like donating $30 for a donation, you can feel free to donate through PayPal or directly onto YouTube. And I'd be happy to do a donation for you today, or for a reading for you. If you don't want to do it now, you can email me at astrology@dustincormier.com, and I'd be happy to do that reading for you another time if you feel like it, right? So, Fran, it's important for you to understand that you've got karma, which has put past life pressure on your self-confidence and your ability to communicate and manifest. Mercury's communicating and manifesting its truth, its desires, especially in the 4th house, speaking about and creating the destiny of the happiness that you seek. That will give the world energy. In fact, even as a woman, I'll answer you in a sec, Bill. Even as a woman, the happiest thing for the world is a happy woman. A woman is like a transistor. A woman's happiness radiates and purges out into the far depths of the world where everybody can see it and feel it. The women are our emotions. And so you have to believe, you have to understand and think about the fact that, get your new job, honey, and do your new job. But don't forget that what the universe is teaching you right now, especially as Saturn comes into Taurus, which is that's going to be an important time because Jupiter is your Atmakaraka. Taurus is your Swamsha, Fran, which means in 2028, you're going to go through your Saturn return and you're going to be going through Sadhisati. That will be an even more important time. The next 4 years, the next really until about 2030, even into 2032. Really, the next 7 years or so are going to be an important time where if you do not do your duty as a beautiful woman seeking to be the world's happiest, you are the goddess. And by seeking that happiness, you are doing what the universe needs for you to do. And if you do not take care of this responsibility, all the other things in your life are going to get sogged down and dry, and you're not going to have the vital resources you need to have your basic living. Get that new job, make that money, save your money, be conscientious about saving for yourself because you're worth it and you're valuable. Put money away for yourself, invest it through that second house energy that you have with Jupiter in the second house there. But ultimately, seek the responsibility that you have to make yourself happy and to radiate that happiness in relationship with other people. Get a counselor. Go to internal family systems if you have to. Read the book. There's a book called No Bad Parts. Or watch videos on it if you don't like reading. This responsibility is going to bring you the energy that is going to give you the luck and the happiness that you seek. Now, I want to answer Bill Cipher really quickly. You can donate on YouTube. There are ways to do it in the chat. Usually, I'm not exactly sure how I would go about. I think there's these little dollar signs beside the chat where you can show your support, and that is what would allow you to do that. That is our timer for Fran. So Bill, if you want to hang out for a minute, I can help you do this donation if you feel like it. For Fran, my darling, your happiness is going to make you happy, and it's going to bring you cosmic energy from the reverberating walls of the cosmos. So you can finally deal with this energy that you've brought in from past lives, which is to recognize that you yourself, your first house, that's you, that's your body, your happiness of your body, the happiness of your destiny, your freedom to consider yourself a valid person in the eyes of everybody else. And to not resist your heart's desire to experience that self-validation in the eyes of others, in love. Be careful with your Jupiter in Libra. It can get a little too hungry to be loved by a man or to receive love from other people. Be conscious of that, Fran. Be conscious that you can easily get sucked into the feeling that I need a man in order to make me happy, and it's only if I get in a relationship then I'll be happy. Or you'll think I can't deal with that relationship stuff because it's too powerful, it's too strong, I hate dealing with it. Ultimately, all of these things, as I say in astrology, they're not a big deal for anybody. The first house, the second house, the third house, all of these houses, all of these signs, all of these planets, they're not a big deal. It's only when we have karma there that we experience it to be more of a big deal than it actually is. I invite you to be conscious of your own energy. of the karma you've brought into this life and recognize that you have an opportunity to find love for yourself, and that this is what the universe has been calling you to do, to believe in yourself and to communicate about the desires and love that you seek to have in this life, and to share them with other people, even to have close friends with this Jupiter in the second house. That's a family. That's a scene of social people and friends that you can develop and have the love that you seek in this life. Don't resist them. Look within yourself to see what happened in your childhood that stopped you from knowing this natural part of yourself. Not only do you deserve it, but the universe wants your love and happiness, Fran, and you can find it. It's just going to take a little bit of self-realization, a little bit of work, whether it's through reading, through getting a counselor, taking a little bit of that extra money, and taking care of yourself, taking care of what you need as a woman to find peace with your emotions. You can do it. It might always be a little bit tough, but it's going to be tougher if you don't put energy into these things. And I hope that that makes sense to you, Fran. I hope that you've enjoyed this reading, and I thank you very kindly for being a part of it. Thank you, Bill Cipher. You're next, and I appreciate you donating. For now, everybody, let's give Fran a big hand. Thank you kindly, Fran, for being a part of this reading with us today. You've done a great job. You were communicating and talking with me the whole way through. Thank you, darling, very dearly for supporting me, supporting my channel, and being a part of our reading today. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, Fran, and thank you to everybody who has donated and been part of our reading today. Now, we have one more reading. Our friend Bill Cipher has just donated, as we can see in the chat. And thank you, Bill, for donating your $30 and for getting it to me in this way. You are most welcome, Fran, my darling. You deserve every good thing that comes to you in life, and I wish you the greatest success. And I'm always here to be doing more of these videos. As time goes on, we will be doing more. There's always much more to share. There's always more consciousness and love to move through on our planet through the blessings of the internet and connections like this. That's what I want to do in my channel. I got a strong Saturn in my chart. It's in Aquarius. I want to develop a scene. I want everybody here to feel like they're in a community. I think that's a good thing that we need. We all need it these days. Yeah, you're right. Philomath. The old rock and roll snappity snaps. So, our friend Bill Cipher here is next for our reading. Bill Cipher has donated $30, and I thank you, Bill. The time has come for your reading for the day. And then this will be our fourth reading, and then we're going to call her a day after that because I got to go eat some food. Thank you, Bill, for your donation and for being a part of our reading and supporting us today. Now, let's see here. Bill, you, my friend, are born February 20th, 2002 at 3:35. So that's 15:35:00. Male, Vietnam. Now, I always ask this of everybody, Bill, if you have any pronouns that you prefer, whether you're male or female or anything between, let me know. Bill seems like a male name, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that mark. And you are from Hanoi, Vietnam. Hanoi. Let's see what we've got. These cusps. There's always these cusps just dragging me around here. 3:35, February 20th, 2002. 3:35 in Hanoi, Vietnam. Okay, so Bill, I have you here as a Leo rising, but you're right on the cusp of Leo and Virgo. Now, let me know, Bill, are you used to reading yourself as being a Leo? Let me know if that's the case, my friend. I'd like to be sure that I have the right birth time and the right rising sign as well. No pronouns, but you're kind of in between. Very good. I find myself to be similar, although I've been landing on being a man. I'm a male, and that's really how I identify. But I have deep moorings in non-binary consciousness. Your name is Fos. All right, Fos. I'm going to call you Fos then. Thank you, Fos. Now, Fos, have you ever done astrology before? And would it be right for me to call you a Leo rising? That's what I'm currently wondering. I'm just going to get my chat back up here. Your name is Fos. Yeah, so let me know, Fos. Have you done astrology before? And you read as Leo. Right. That's what I figured, and that's what I have you as here in my chart. So, yeah, it should be about 0 degrees Leo. That's what I got. Good. Very well. Congratulations. You are a Leo rising like me. The best of rising signs. Just ask any Leo rising. So it looks like we've got you as a Leo here. And yeah, okay. I think I'm ready to roll, my friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be our last reading of the day. This is going to be a half an hour reading. I do thank you kindly, Bill, for supporting my channel and being a part of the work that I do. And for everybody who's been watching and supporting, the timer has started. I can see, gosh, I'm going to have to cut my hair soon. I'm starting to part it in this way. That makes it look funky. That's what happens when my hair gets this long. Fos, the time has come. Our timer has started. Now, let's start digging into your chart. Fos, you can ask me any of those questions. You mentioned that you've got some specific questions and concerns that you are curious about. Feel free to put in the chat box any of the questions and desires and concerns that you have. What I'm going to do quickly for you while we have your chart up is to do a little rundown for myself of the main themes going on in this chart. We can see that we have a nice happening Jupiter. Yeah. Okay, so you're 2002. That's the year of the water horse. And in 2002, we had a nice, wonderful, exalted Jupiter. In this case, it is retrograde. It's in the 12th house for Leo rising. That Jupiter is going to do some wonderful things for this chart. Especially because we have Pluto and Ketu in the 5th house for Leo, which is Sagittarius. So Pluto and Ketu by themselves, like, they're not damaging anything. It all has to do, in order to know what's happening with something like Ketu and Pluto, you really need to know planets that are in the sign and the lord of the sign. In this case, Jupiter, this very happy happening Jupiter, is the first lord. It's the 5th lord of this chart. It's channeling Pluto and Ketu. That Jupiter is one of the strongest Jupiters that I've seen in a dog's age. It's your strongest Shadbala planet. It has some very strong Vimshopak. It's got very strong what's called yoga power, which means any yogas that this Jupiter is going to find itself involved in is going to be very strong. This is a blessing. Huge blessings happening in this chart. Ketu and Pluto being in Sagittarius in the 5th house indicate that there will be a 5th house confrontation. You've come into the past life with Ketu and Pluto in this 5th house. There's going to be at some point a need to just work and act creatively, to act in some kind of regard towards creativity in some way. Now, what's a little bit tricky here is that Mercury is... there's something very interesting happening here, actually. Mercury has the opposite in terms of its strength and its yoga power. Mercury does not like to be close to the 7th house. It prefers to be close to the 1st house. So Mercury is in our 7th house, right on the 7th house cusp. It's with Neptune and Uranus, which is going to expand the 7th house nature of this Mercury. So Mercury is a bit like Jupiter in that Mercury likes to be closer to the 1st house. We learn how to communicate best when Mercury is close to the 1st house cusp, because this is how I communicate. I see myself, I see the other person. When you see two people who are communicating well, they keep their apples apples and their oranges oranges. They don't mix together into an orange apple because then no conversation can be had. When Mercury is closer to the 7th house cusp, this is somebody who loses what their own standing, their own way of communicating, the own way they prefer to learn, their own way they prefer to manifest and expand their potentials into the world. So with Mercury placed in this way, in the 7th house, with Uranus and Neptune there, you might find even that the world and the generations before you almost make you feel like there's a pressure on your Mercury that makes it hard to do what Mercury needs to do. This is very relevant because we have Rahu in the sign of Gemini, the 11th house. This Jupiter makes me not fear for this person. Right, many divisions. So obviously you're a Tropical Vedic astrologer. That's nice to hear. So yes, Mercury, it's a little bit tough on Vimshopak, which means that you're correct. It's going to be difficult in many of its divisions. This is very important because Mercury rules Rahu in this chart. Truth be told, the good news here is that the more important thing is that Ketu and Pluto. So let's take a quick read on what our friend Fos is saying here and asking about. Well-off family, that's a nice thing. The thing with creativity is true. You have a lot of trouble and doubts with having a life that's more unconventional. I think the Jupiter in you is being in the 12th house will probably guide you to a little bit of this sort of unconventionality. It's not a bad thing to live an unconventional life, especially if it serves everything you're trying to do and be. It's interesting you got Venus exalted in Pisces in your 8th house, although Venus is definitely going to be agitated by the sun there. But Venus is exalted, and that's going to help that Venus. Venus isn't doing too bad. You don't really have any bad planets with Shadbala in this chart. Nothing is like, oh my gosh, we've got to look at that thing. Mercury has a little bit of significations of that difficulty. Mercury is the one thing that's worth mentioning in this chart that's tough. You got a nice Aries in the 9th house, Mars in the sign of Aries in the 9th house, which is a huge positive thing for Leo rising, by the way. Mars rules the 4th house, which is an angle, and the 9th house, which is a trine. So it's a yoga karaka. So if Mars is doing well, it's going to be a very good positive thing. It gives you the strength to move through bullshit inside of your chart. It also gives you the strength to deal with things related to Ketu. So having a good Ketu with Jupiter in the 12th house exalted in Cancer, this is going to make you happy in your life. You've got the blessings of the bottom line going on here, my friend. And it's a wonderful thing. Now, the unconventionality is interesting. And working out what exactly we mean by being unconventional is something interesting to think about. lots of trouble with education. You've gotten expelled so much. So you've been expelled from school and stuff like that. I wouldn't even have expected that so much. But a lot of this could come from, you know, you're still young and you're going through what you're going through, but you have an ability to learn very deeply from the world in an unconventional way. That's what's nice about your Jupiter being so well placed in the 12th house. You're going to have some 12th house energy. You're going to have some loss of education. You're going to find that you learn better from the world. You're a bit like a Goku from Dragon Ball Z. You've got Goku energy in this chart. That's what happens when we've got a really fired up, very positive Jupiter. Goku in Dragon Ball Z is this kid who fell from another planet. He's this little monkey boy with the long monkey tail. And he lives an unconventional life. But he sees beauty in nature that other people can't see. If you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z, he lives in the forest, and this lady is a human. Her name's Bulma. She comes and finds Goku living his crazy little monkey life. And she says, Goku, what are you doing living outside with all the animals? You know, don't you want to sleep in a bed? And Goku says, well, why would I do that? If I have to sleep in a bed, I have to take care of the bed. I'd rather just sleep outside amongst the stars with all my animal friends. And Bulma says, yeah, but, you know, like, wouldn't you want a job? And Goku says, a job? What do you mean a job? I've got everything I need here. I can go and I can hunt. I can hunt for animals. I can get vegetables out of the ground. Like, what's a job going to get me exactly? And Bulma thinks he's an idiot. But as the show progresses, it shows you that Goku is actually the living pure essence of like a sadhu, who has this incredible strength and ability to overcome any challenges. And there's Goku energy here that just gets energy from the nature of the wisdom that is inherent inside of human consciousness. The genetic material of humanity contains the designs of infinite intelligence, and we can all tap into that by closing our eyes to the world, looking within, and doing practices that bring us into alignment with the inherent, intrinsic, coded intelligence of human consciousness. You've got those codes. You can listen within yourself and find those codes. And I can understand why you would feel, you know, truth be told, this whole unconventional life thing, you can have an unconventional life and still live a conventional life. You know, you can do what Goku did, which is eventually, he has this appreciation for the inherent wisdom and intelligence of the cosmos, and his nature, and his biology, and the world around him. But his destiny called him to come into humanity. Bulma brings him into society, and he learns how to put on a suit, how to have a regular job, how to have a child, and his child has to learn to also have Goku energy, but live amongst humans in society. So you can do that. You can appreciate being away from society, but you should also be able to appreciate being in society. And with the funny thing going on in your chart, one of the things I see happening that might make you feel a little bit of this unconventional energy is possibly Mercury. Now, let's just do a quick peek check here. Your Atmakarika is the moon. Oh yeah, okay, so the moon is nice and happy in the sign of Taurus. We could technically say that it is its Mula Trikona at the end of Taurus. As well, the moon being the Atmakarika, let's say first, as we've said, we had somebody else in here who was also moon Atmakarika. The moon Atmakarika is lovesick. It's a person who feels a deep, under-ebbing, passionate desire to experience love. In fact, it's amazing that you got a beauty chart here, my dude. Beauty chart. It's not too often that I see a beauty chart like this. Remember, we have to look at what's happening inside the signs ruled by the Atmakarika to really know what's happening with the Atmakarika. beautiful situation is set up where you have Jupiter exalted in Cancer. When you have an exalted planet in a sign, it does well for that sign and its lord. So Jupiter being in Cancer is not only good for Jupiter, but it's also good for Cancer. Cancer rules the moon, which is your Atma Karaka. So we have here the moon is in its Mula Trikona, and we have Jupiter exalted in the sign of Cancer in that 12th house. So there's definitely blessings happening in this chart that would set you up with the ability to experience that love. You know, I see you said that you were born to a well-off family. I wonder if your family also encourages you to have love. We're talking love from the heart. The feeling you're accepted for who you are. And the feeling, it's a soul feeling. You know, the best way I can describe it is if anybody's ever seen that movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The mother and daughter in that movie have tension with each other, and the daughter wants to no longer be in the soul continuum with her mother. But her and her mother eventually learn to love each other. Even though they have these frustrations between each other, they are soulmates. Throughout all the multiverses that have given them different lives, they are destined to come together and experience soul love with each other. And you can have this soulmate love with anybody. And whatever you pursue as this destined feeling that I'm meant to spend time with this person, this is our experience of love in this life. It's no coincidence. It's not just a dog that we buy, you know, and I mean, sometimes, you know, if you buy a dog, I believe I have my cats are my soulmates as well. I bought them and I wanted that companionship, but now as time has gone on, they are my soulmates. They have spent that much soul time with me, comforting them and them comforting me. It's the same thing with arbitrary relationships in our lives, our brothers, our sisters, our mother, our father. It might just seem like whatever. But they are soul bond contracts, which we need to serve through, have karmic retribution through, to make the sum of each other greater than their parts. And that lovesick feeling of wanting to have that love, not only do you have the blessings of a good Jupiter that will make you listen and understand what you are as a man or as a person who identifies with whatever you identify with, you will be able to move in cohesion through that deep sense of whatever your gender is, whatever the gender of the other person is. This is a love that goes beyond gender. This is soul fusion. You love your mom after being far from home for a long time. Cool. And that is sweet. You know, let's see. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how long you've been away from home. You started your Rahu Mahadasha at 17 years old in 2019. So thankfully, Rahu Mahadasha can be a bitch. Especially yours is a finicky one because Rahu is with Saturn. You're so young, you're not going to be able to fully feel like you've developed Saturn enough that it is good or happy. So anything to do with Saturn by Mahadasha, you're a tropical, you seem to be Vedic, so you must know what the Mahadasha is. You started your Rahu Mahadasha in 2019, and you're going to go through it all the way until your Jupiter Mahadasha starts in 2037. So you got a long time in this Rahu Mahadasha. That'll be a huge blessing. When you're 35 years old, you got a lot of good blessings coming to you at that time. Because Saturn's going to mature, your Rahu will have gone through the Rahu Mahadasha, and you'll be in the Jupiter period at that time. Jupiter being so well placed in your chart, you got a really good period happening at that point. But until then, you went away in 2016. So you're in the Mars Dasha at that time. Yeah, that's interesting. Mars rules your 4th and 9th house, so you developed a new home far away in that 9th house energy. But right now, you're in this Rahu Mahadasha. Now, there's something very significant that I'd like to point out in this reading, in this chart in particular, is that while you're in the Rahu period, Dasha, you are going to be digging into all things related to Gemini, the 11th house, and all things related to Mercury. In order to really know what's happening with Rahu in a Rahu Mahadasha, we have to look at the Lord of the Rahu. In this case, since Rahu is in the sign of Gemini in the 11th house, we would have to look at what's going on with Mercury. And it's this Mercury that is the tricky placement, as you know. So I would expect that you could have a little bit of a rocky time up till about age 35, which is a long time. It's a large chunk of your life. But remember that there's bliss to be had with Rahu. There's extreme bliss to be had and satisfaction to be had with Rahu. This is probably going to even increase and speed up your Saturn. Something good happening around 35. Absolutely. That's what I see happening for you, my friend Fos. Now, here's something that's worth mentioning for you, is that you have a very important Parivartana Yoga happening. You probably know what Parivartana Yoga is as a Vedic person. It's when one planet is in the other planet's sign, and that planet is also in that planet's sign. So you have Mercury in Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn, and you have Rahu in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in Saturn's sign, and Saturn is in Gemini, which means Saturn is in Mercury's sign. And this is an important Parivartana Yoga happening between the 7th Lord and the 11th Lord. This is worth speaking to here because Mercury, especially because this Parivartana Yoga is involved with your 11th house, which is where your Rahu is, which is the main theme that you're going to be going through during this long Rahu Mahadasha period. So let's take a look at the 7th house when it is in a Parivartana with the 11th house. Because you should find that this is highly relevant to you. A house exchange, you got it. You have a house exchange between the 7th house and the 11th house, right? 7th house of Mercury, 11th house of Gemini. Now, mind you, you are very cuspy, so I'd hate to send you on this goose chase and for you to actually be Cancer rising. If you're a Cancer rising, it's actually probably even better for you. But don't let that, I can't see you, I don't know your vibe. If you think that you're a Leo rising, you can usually tell if someone's a Leo rising. I digress. The better you are at knowing for sure about your birth time, the more a reading like this is useful to you. In any case, it is worth knowing that Mercury and Saturn are in this Parivartana Yoga exchange. Now, this is what happens when you exchange the 7th and the 11th house lords. This is considered a Mahaparivartana Yoga, one of the great exchanges, and the lords are in a mutual 5-9 relationship from each other, right? So that means Saturn is in the 5th sign from Mercury, and Mercury is in the 9th sign from Saturn, right? That's this 5-9 exchange, but it's happening in the 7th and the 11th house. Kama houses, these are air houses, which has to do with joy, connections, networks, really coming into the world, dealing with the world. It might be a little bit embarrassing for you that your Mercury is so mucky in the way that it is, because this will pull you into spheres with other people, networks, where everyone can see and experience your Mercury. And you might find like an odd fish in this regard, which is really why it's good for you to recognize that the age of Mercury is from 3 to 12 for everybody, which means that would be the period when you look at from age 3 to age 12, before you hit puberty, in the prepubescent prince age. In your self-reflection, my friend, you've got a good Jupiter, which is why I love talking with people with good Jupiters, because they listen. From age 3 to 12 would have been the time period where the seeds of difficult karma related to communication, to asking your parents, talking with your parents about what you want to be when you grow up. You know, Dad, I want to be a firefighter. Okay, son, here's a little fire truck for you to feel that out. Dad, I want to be a painter. Well, here's some painting. Let's talk about painting. How do you paint? You know, a person with good Mercury, their parents will even like encourage them. They'll paint with them. They'll make the child feel like when I voice something, the universe brings it to me. And I believe it, and I feel it, and everyone else feels it and knows it. It's a powerful, snappy Mercury, can do those things. When you lack this Mercury, it's a little bit harder to feel confident in getting what you need, especially because Mercury for you rules the 11th and the 2nd house. Finally, it's also worth noting, the one really bit of a tricky bitch going on in this chart is that the Swamsha is going to be Virgo, right? We have the moon exalted in Taurus, which is good and nice. Relationships through the moon is going to help with that love sickness. But the moon being at the end of an earth sign, that puts it in the Swamsha of Virgo Swamsha, right? So with Virgo Swamsha, we have to remember we radiate the energy of the Swamsha. Just like our rising sign, just like our south node. We radiate the energy of the Swamsha. In this case, a soul energy that you radiate is Virgo, which is the place where Mercury is exalted, which is nice, but it's the place where Venus is debilitated, which means knowing about childhood traumas through from age 3 to 12, especially ones that might have made it complicated for you to understand what you are in your gender as a man or as a woman or any pronoun that you operate through. Remember that regardless of your pronouns, you can still use masculine energy and drive to stick single-pointedly to what you want to get in life. And you can also use the feminine psyche to attract the joyful environment that would nurture the seeds of what you want to do with yourself. We need the masculine energy to get through the hard things. We need the feminine energy to manifest the soft things that nurtures us so we can go back out and do the hard things. 9th division is Navamsha, correct. So we're taking your Atmakaraka, which is the moon, and we're looking at its position in the 9th division, which is the Navamsha. Very good. So your early childhood was difficult and you were more stoic and never communicated much. That's not ideal for Virgo Swamsha. A Virgo Swamsha person, like I'm also Virgo Swamsha, by the way. I get lots of Virgo Swamshas. I say it all the time on my channel because everyone who sees my energy is attracted to what I am. So if you're also Virgo Swamsha, you're going to say, I like this guy's vibe. It's because I'm Virgo Swamsha too. And I'm a chit-chat, chappy chatterbox. I talk about like the ugly stuff, going through what happened to me in childhood. All of my books, I'm writing books and poetry and novels, and it's all about the junk I had to go through in my early childhood, the relationships I had with my parents, and the happiness my parents had, whether they did or not, how I learned masculine energy from my father, I learned feminine energy from my mother, and how these two would have caused unconscious antagonism inside of me. This is all classic Virgo Swamsha stuff. And that age is a prominent point that you can look back on in your self-realization practice, especially because you got that nice Jupiter exalted in that 12th house of Cancer. You would be looking within yourself for the joy and bliss of the Creator within you. And you would be looking to untangle what happened to you in your childhood that has stopped you from having the peace and joy and bliss that you seek. And so from age 3 to 12, that quietness, never communicating much, I would encourage you to think of how has that blocked me in my life now, where now it's hard for me to manifest what I want, especially because Mercury is in such a delicate place in your chart, right? So let's have a quick read here. Again, we've got this very important exchange between Mercury and Saturn in the 7th and 11th houses, right? These are comma houses. These are air houses. Thanks to this dynamic, this yoga plays out through productive partnerships, whether personal, social, or professional. This is a positive yoga. You actually probably have the ability to work well in partnerships with people, to work well in group and social and professional groupings. You know, it's probably possible that you have to be conscious of getting in with the wrong crowd, with the wrong people who are going to... You have to be discerning about the friendships that you keep with a Mercury like yours. You know, you might find that the excitement of doing things that would get you expelled from school, you know, might have caused you to do the fun for those people because they think it's fun, and now you're left with having been expelled from schools when you were younger. So be conscientious of how friends and people in your situation can bring you down and encourage you to do things that are fun for everybody, but ultimately destructive for yourself. Right? Be conscious of that. This is a person who engages in business abroad. It's interesting that you've traveled already and you're living somewhere outside of your native home. This person can enjoy gains of foreign income. They're a natural networker, and they strengthen their business relationships through partnerships, including with those of elder siblings. It's the very 11th house. This person profits in some way. I'm sure my alarm's about to go off. This person profits in some way through their spouse. That's the 11th house profit going through the 7th house of the spouse. So when you do get married in life, you'll find that your spouse will have some way of making money that brings extra profit to you and to your family situation, which is nice. There's my alarm. That's okay. The alarm's done, but I'm still going to finish this up. You might find a spouse will earn a good income of her own, or may come from a wealthy family like you do. She may also provide introductions to an influential circle of associates that contribute to your prosperity. The lover might be a romantic and an optimist, and might be successful in speculation or games of chance. It's good to be conscientious of how even dealing with money can have that speculative element, so long as you don't bet the whole family farm on some magic beans, put all your money into crypto and watch it all disappear. Being conscientious of the money that you get from your spouse and your resources, being intelligent with it through that 2nd house is going to be important for you, especially because Mercury rules your 2nd house. So you might find that your personal finances can have a way of slipping away. A lot of social issues around that age and gave a lot of antisocial tendencies. Especially because, you've got Rahu, Mahadasha, in Gemini in the 11th house, and the 11th house relates with elder siblings. So you might do well to use your Mercury, and I encourage you to see how redeeming your relationships with your elder siblings might be good karma for you. Now, I don't know what's happened to you with your elder siblings, whether they're people who you wouldn't want to reconnect with, but ultimately, everyone has whatever karma they have. Your elder siblings have their karma, and for you to be the bigger man, the bigger person, and to use your Jupiter to have forgiveness, to not take what your elder siblings have done to you personally, but to still use your Mercury to have boundaries, enough where you can ameliorate the karma related to elder siblings, gurus, people who are older than you, even authority figures. Dealing with that is going to help you right now deal with this Rahu energy, which is in Gemini and which is with Saturn. Thankfully, you've got a good Saturn. I think by the time you're 36, a lot of the gunky stuff which relates to people who are older than you, authorities, people who are patrons of yours, if you're a person who has clients, or you are a person who works for a wealthy patron of some sort, dealing with the energy associated with all that, not feeling like a piece of shit, this will come to you over time as Saturn matures, especially, right? So recognize that and apply love and forgiveness through the spirituality that you have through your Jupiter to understand that anyone you have ugly karma with is a reflection of yourself, an opportunity to love yourself, to see that the cosmos sometimes is like a little kitty with a little broken leg or a hurt leg. You don't want to push that kitty to get up. Come on, stupid little kitty, get up and walk around. You want to pet it. You want to give it love. You want to nurture it so it can nurture itself back to health. Sometimes those mistakes, bad karma with people, it's like that. And the more we can lead by forgiveness and understanding, and being the bigger person by being conscientious of the cosmic interplays that are happening with any of these complicated things, the easier a time we'll have in dealing with something like you having that Rahu in that placement. You'll probably find you get into things where you're dealing with people who are tough, people who have a hard time forgiving you, who don't communicate well, and your Mercury might even make it worse. But you can't let your gummed up Mercury, your nature of being a quiet person, stop you from connecting with people, connecting, networking, being a fun person who people like to talk to, having a voice, having an opinion. This stuff is important for you to do. And I would regard it as a key dimension of what I see happening in your chart. Ultimately, because the Rahu and Ketu are in fire and air signs, you're going to find that a big part of who you are is what you do. I feel you're going to be a very creative person who's going to have a lot of creative energy and that deep Goku energy of finding things and talents inside yourself that nobody would ever expect or even think about and realize are talents that you're allowed to have. But then the next thing would be, how do I make those talents palpable to the world outside of myself? How do I make it a product, a value, an item that can save the world and even give me a buck along the way? And you don't need to be a money-hungry person, especially with Jupiter in the 12th house as it is. You might find that one of the reasons you live, one of the things you love to do is to serve the world. But in order to serve the world, it's important for you to you'll serve the world better in this position. You'll serve the world better. You'll teach the world yoga more. You'll help the world get in touch with its own Goku energy if you find intelligent ways of using your money, making it in a way that you're giving the devil his due by perhaps making a business out of it, making a career out of it, or just getting into some business or some kind of career where you deal with your money and resources and time management intelligently enough that you get the extra money so that you can go and dissipate the karmic ether of that money by going and living simply and minimally and teaching people the things that you learn through that very powerful 5th house of yours. Giving the devil his due by learning about money, finances, networking with other people, being in a business with others. These are not bad things. They are not evil things. That unconventionality that you live is probably a deep part of you that's deeply spiritual and beautiful. But don't let yourself be deluded in thinking that means that you'll never be a person of the world, a man of the world who thinks money is evil. Money's not evil. Money is as evil as the person whose hand it's in. Money is one of the root chakras. Sex is not evil. Attaining your desires and goals and objectives in life is not evil. These are lower chakra things. We need those spiritual roots. We need those material, emotional roots in order to give the best of our spiritual fruits. So be conscientious of your self-talk, of how you orient yourself towards the future, towards connecting and networking with people that allow you to take your creative energy and bring it into fruition through other people, through connections outside of yourself. It might be tough up to the age of 35, 36, but at 36, this is really going to bloom for you. So using that Mercury, because it's wrapped up, your Mercury is wrapped up in this Rahu game, which means that you have to learn to use your voice, use your boundaries, speak to yourself, talk to yourself of good character. Don't say, oh, I'm a piece of shit. Don't be self-degrading. Don't be degrading to other people. Uplift yourself and others while still being true. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you're dancing with a lady and you're dancing and you're having this nice dance. And if she's stepping on your toes, you say, oh, honey, that's my toe down there, darling. Just watch my toes there. And if she's just like not paying, she's drunk and not paying attention to it or whatever, keep saying it. Honey, that's my toes. Just watch my toes. Eventually she should get it. If she doesn't get it, there's a flag. There's a red flag going on with your Mercury, right? When you speak to things and people don't listen to you, it might be because you don't believe in your own Mercury yet. But as time goes on, you need to go through the shame and the pain and the agitation that you might experience with your Mercury. It will be worth it in the long run. It is a part of your karma to do so. I can definitely see you having a lot of luck. You've got a good Jupiter, which is the planet of abundance. But sustaining the luck and wealth that you get from what you do is going to be part of the game with this Rahu and Gemini in the 11th house with Saturn. Being intelligent and having your own solid dignity when it comes to the love and energy and money and vital resources that moves through you, this is going to be part of who you are as someone who in the end could hold a lot of energy for other people. Rahu and Gemini and Saturn in the 11th house. People might lean on you for this networking, for this energy, people might even put their money into you for you to do something constructive with. So as time goes on, now is a good time for you to develop on this worldly sense. Don't be afraid to be worldly right now. Do it with your spiritual intentions. Continue to do your spiritual practice, your inner self-reflection. But when you're in your 30s, when you're about 36, that's going to be the time where you've dealt with your monetary karma, your worldly karma. You've shed your resistance to it. Then, as you develop into Jupiter, which is going to be calling for you at that time, you might want to be a family person, or you might want to just serve the world through your quiet yoga that you love to do while no one else is looking, some creative thing that you can contribute to the world. That's going to be when you get the heart of the matter of what this chart represents. And that's going to come through you along the way too. But until then, do not shy away from your material life and your material business karma. Do not shy away from attaining goals, challenging yourself to go into some job, whatever company, whatever you're drawn to, in order to get to the top of it and be a successful contributor to some kind of gig, so that you can be a successful contributor to whatever business comes to you when you're in your 30s and you've matured through all of this stuff. I have high hopes for you, my guy. Honestly, I love seeing charts like this where things are lined up in a good way. Your main thing is going to be the Sagittarius 5th house karma in relationship with the 11th house energy. So because Jupiter as well, the main narrative for everybody is Rahu and Ketu. What's tricky is you got a good Ketu, but a tough Rahu. Rahu will always be a little bit tough for you. They might go back and forth, but Ketu is the one you want to have, especially with that Pluto there. So there's a blessing, a real blessing happening in this chart. And I want to congratulate you for having it. Now, my friend, let's call it a day. I hope that this has been helpful for you, folks. I hope that this has brought you a little bit of self-illumination, a bit of self-realization. Do you got any questions before I end here? So feel free to ask a question. I'm glad that this was a good reading for you. And I'm glad for everybody who's been watching. We've still got lots of people hanging out and watching us in the live. So for everybody watching, thank you to everybody who's been here. Thanks to everyone who donated. And thank you to Fos for being our final contestant of the evening. Yes, very well done. I feel good about that reading, and I hope that you do too. And for you, Fos, or for anybody who ever wants to go further in any of the things that I've done today, you can feel free to email me at astrology@dustincormier.com. I do deep readings, and I also do cold readings as well. And I can always continue to do either of those things. For everyone who's been watching live and hanging out, our next readings of this sort, I don't know if it's going to be a donation basis or whatever. It's going to be on let's see here, Saturday. Oh, the 31st is actually technically the last Saturday. So Saturday, January 31st is going to be our next session. Awesome, Fos. I'm glad that that made sense, and I'm glad that you got something out of this reading. So our next session is going to be January 31st. Whether it's donation or channel membership, whatever it's going to be, we're going to figure it out. I'm Dustin Cormier, everybody, and this has been How to Rock Astrology. Thank you, Fos. Thank you, everybody who's been here, hanging out and watching us live. Thank you for all the donations that I've received today. Let's go eat some food. I'm starving. And keep your eyes peeled. Feel free to join my email list as well as my channel membership for all different things offered by me in my world. And keep your eyes peeled because there's always more stuff coming in the world of Dustin Cormier and How to Rock Astrology, including books. I'm going to be writing a book soon, and I want you guys to all check it out and enjoy it. And I've got a few books coming along the way, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I love you, folks. Thanks for being in this community with me. Thanks to all who have been watching and hanging out. I'll see you guys on the next video that I do. Take care, everybody. Lots of love. Let's go eat some food.